Hello and welcome to another fantastic night of movie night Autopsy. I am so excited to be here with you. I am Asher.
I'm Grace.
I'm Chad.
And I'm Sam.
And tonight we are just coming together again to celebrate friendship, to celebrate film and all of its many facets. We've been doing this for a little bit now, and I'm not gonna bury the lead. Has anyone calmed down from the '90s classic The Birdcage?
Ooh, that's a tall order to calm down all the way back to the 90s.
That movie was woke before woke was woke.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa. Wow. You just dropped that on us.
It's woke. Yeah. Woke.
Okay. you had me on your side. You had me on your
But
side.
then you had to
but I
correct his
can't-
grammar. And
But I
that's just
can't.
not-
I can't leave it that way. Though.
All right, but seriously, we're in for a treat tonight. We all love this movie so goddamn much, and sorry to steal your line, Chad, but we love this movie so much, and I think we're realizing how much we love it every time we watch it again. I feel like this movie's not super well known.
It's like
it was a hit in the '90s.
it was a hit, but no one talks about it like regularly.
Like my mom
Everyone
was a
just
fan of this movie in the '90s.
It was always on AMC back when AMC showed movies.
That's crazy.
I'm so glad I
back
watched
before
it.
they were the
Though.
Walking Dead machine.
Yeah, pretty much.
I want to watch this movie once a year.
Yeah, I feel like this is a once a year movie.
It's so good. Like I rewatched it just to get ready for this because I hadn't seen it since watching it with you guys. Because spoiler alert, we've been slacking on that whole
The
deal.
actual movie night of movie
Yeah.
night Autopsy.
We don't need to get into the nitty gritty details of how lazy we are,
that is too
it's-
inside baseball.
It's pretty damn lazy. We can get into the sabermetrics. But no, rewatching this movie, it's like it was. I liked it even more, like seeing it again. I almost watched it again today. I almost did. I didn't. I played Fallout 76 instead. But no, I almost watched it again, and just man, like I can't believe that this is a movie that was made in the '90s. Like that's what blows me away.
What blows me away is just like the issues they were dealing with in the 90s. We definitely don't deal with today. I mean, can you imagine if we had to tell people the things that the Birdcage tells them in 2018? That's just ridiculous. I'm glad we've moved so far beyond that.
Oh yeah, I'm glad that none of those issues are relevant now.
Anyhow.
It's like watching footage of like a new species be found on an island. It's so far distant from what your culture is used to.
I know, you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, all that is blatant sarcasm. This is one of the most tragically
Flagrant,
relevant
really.
movies I've ever run
I
into.
love how you have to explain how it's sarcasm.
Hey, I mean, just
If you don't explain that it's sarcasm, how are they gonna know?
Exactly. God, our listeners are idiots. We gotta walk through one step at a
that
time.
was okay.
That's for the
that
last
went-
episode of Movie Night Autopsy. I've been Chad.
That's a fridge too far.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Did you say a fridge too far?
Yeah,
Like
'Cause it's
refrigerator?
chilly?
like where the fridge is right now. It's too far away.
Yeah,
it's a fridge too far.
Well, it's in another room. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, the Birdcage.
Anyhow, we watched The Birdcage, which is wow. So rather, we're by the way, and this movie is gonna have a lot of tangents because I think the first thing I'm gonna say right off the bat, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's so well casted and just executed that it's
so
just
good.
It's
Nathan Lane's performance is a national treasure in this movie.
oh
Like,
my god.
holy
to
hell!
start with, and then when you think about it, it's mostly like the apartment of the couple. Like, so it's really kind of impressive.
Armand
well, it's based on a
and
play,
Albert.
right?
It's
I'm
a
pretty
pl-
sure
it's
it's
a play. and
based on a play.
It was a play. and it
It's
was
a French movie.
A French movie, yeah.
Oh, it's a French movie,
It was a French movie.
And from the late 70s, early 80s.
Something like
but
that.
it's got that like play vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, most of it
It's one
takes
set,
place in one
mostly.
place.
Yeah.
You pretty much do the whole movie. A couple of cutaway shots to the family. Anyhow, we're getting one thing I want to say about this movie, which we should talk about the casting. So much about this movie is fantastic, from the writing to the acting to the casting, to the actual shots themselves, to the musical numbers, to the costumes that people use, like it to the message behind the movie. I mean, this movie is firing on all cylinders in every single category. I don't think it really underperforms in any separate category. But
No.
Oh no, and you have but about the cast, like you have everybody like in this movie. Like first of all, it stars late great Robin Williams,
one of his best roles.
one of
for
my
sure.
favorite
That's
roles he ever
top 5
played.
roles.
Yeah,
Easily.
and that's a hard category
Yeah.
because he had
That's
man,
up there with
Look at his
Poet
catalog.
Yeah,
Genie, Dead Poet Society, Good Will
He-
Hunting.
like
it's up
he's one of
there.
those guys. He owned every role that he played, and this is no exception.
This was a good role.
and of course Nathan Lane, and just that great performances, Albert.
Oh man,
Their chemistry
they're
phenomenal.
they're
Oh, so
great,
good.
but it makes me wish that, with all respect to Williams, if someone told me if Nathan Lane did like a one-man play randomly in a small town, I think about going to visit it because you know how powerful that man's like chops are.
No, that guy's
His
got
acting.
chops.
It's ridiculous.
That guy's got chops.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's Gene Hackman as the senator. Diane Weiss is his wife.
That's right.
That's the mom from Footloose. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, of course, the great Hank Azaria.
Oh, he's so good in this movie.
You know,
So good in the movie.
The one bummer I have is that Hank Azaria only plays one person in this movie because it's Hank Azaria. I'm used to him playing so many different people.
Yeah, like The Simpsons, he's half the cast of The Simpsons.
Yeah, a good chunk of it.
He probably couldn't. They couldn't afford to get him for more than just one role. But that one role he has.
Oh, he's great as the butler,
Agathor
Agador.
Agathor Spartacus.
I think it was Spartacus.
He insists on us using his whole name.
Oh my god, you can't. All right, wait. Oh man, this movie. There's so much to talk about.
Christine Baranski has a great cameo. She's in just everything. If you don't know who she is, if you saw her, you're just like, oh yeah, it's her.
She's the mom.
That's the actual mother of Val, who was
And like
An asshole. Let's just get out of the way.
Val's a dick.
Val is.
ungrateful.
Yeah.
But who's the actor?
Yeah.
We're on the actor list. Who's the actor?
Yeah.
he is not somebody who's terribly well known.
I've seen him in stuff. He had some decent roles in the
Dan
90s.
Futterman.
Yeah, and Calista
Yeah,
Flockhart.
very
right?
very much a '90s name.
Yeah, and then Calista Flockhart in like before she was
Calista
before-
Flockhart. Yeah.
I think it was before Ally McBeal. So that's a solid cast.
Oh, the
That is
cast is quite good. Even the
And
people
they-
who
and they
aren't
kill it.
famous do a really good job
Yeah.
in that movie. Like all the drag queens at the
all
Birdcage.
well, that's the thing is they actually had like a stage director for all of those sequences.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And like they actually had like put all those things together. Those were spectacles that were assembled and then filmed.
Damn. Yeah, it makes sense because it's so well
Yeah, they
coordinated.
did a great job. All the nightclub sequences are just like there's so much fun stuff to watch and just very well done. Very well done movie.
So this movie is about a club in Miami called the Birdcage. It's a drag show. That's its big thing. They have a big drag show.
And it's owned by Robin Williams' character, Armand.
Goldman.
Armand Goldman.
That is
And
going to come up later.
I had to hear somebody
as a
else
matter
say
of
it 'cause
fact-
I'll get confused because of the whole thing that happens later in the movie.
Well, you
I'll
know-
get confused at what his name is.
Well, you know, they actually don't know what country they're in until somebody says their last name. But no, like even with the opening shot, of course, like it takes you in, like the camera comes in, sweeping in. You see the Miami skyline in the distance as it comes across the water, and then it eventually takes you to the nightclub. And once you get inside the nightclub, it shows you what's going on stage. It shows you who the clientele are, and then you see Robin Williams as Armand. And in that one shot right there, it says an awful lot about who our character is before a line is even spoken.
Is it one full shot?
It looks like one full shot.
It's just shot well. To
Oh,
look,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I don't know that it's one full shot. But
Was
it looks
this
like
a
one.
Mike Nichols movie?
It was.
The Graduate. The guy who did The Graduate.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did this movie.
I had no idea.
Yeah, well, that's why everything looks so good.
Yeah, the frames. There's actually a shot towards the beginning when Armand gets into the dressing room. We'll talk about that. See, the opening is so awesome. But he gets into the dressing room with Nathan Lane's character, and
Well, he goes back to the dressing room, and they're trying to get Nathan Lane's character.
I was just gonna say a shot from when he finally gets through. There's this beautiful shot where Nathan Lane is talking into the mirror.
Don't look at me, I'm hideous.
And you see Robin Williams perfectly framed in the mirror on his right side. So they're perfectly symmetrical in the shot. But like it's just like it was so, but the camera you can tell is placed just where it's not going to be caught in the mirror. And I was like, man, someone really was clever when they were putting and like now that you said it was the same director that did The Graduate,
And
like,
by
that
point,
makes sense.
By that point, he'd been making films for at least 30 years. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, he
Shows.
knows where to put it.
So
Movie.
the Birdcage, we're dropped into this this nightclub, and we like Sam just said, you get to learn a lot just by watching the character walk around and interact with the guests.
And one of the first things they say is, the Kennedys are back. They're looking for another free meal. And he's like, is it Junior? It's like, no, one of the cousins, I think.
No, he
It's like,
said, he said, is it Ted? He's like, is it Ted? And he's like,
Yeah,
no,
that's
it's one of
right.
the younger ones. And he's like, wish we could get Ted.
send them some free coffee.
Free coffee.
Free coffee at a nightclub.
At a nightclub. We'll probably sober them up, the damn Kennedys.
The
Yeah,
damn
I called
Kennedys.
it. I called it. Kennedy's a bunch of drunks. I'll do it.
All right, making a note in the minutes. Chad calls it the Kennedys are a bunch of drunks.
Shocker. I know. Breaking news.
I thought we agreed not to get political on this show.
You know what?
Hey, we're talking about the Birdcage.
So anyhow, he's got the Kennedys up in there, and you see. By the way, since this came out in the '90s, I want to say when we watched the movie, we obviously knew it was a drag show. But I think when they were shooting this, that when you first see the dancers on stage, I can't remember what the first song is.
We are family.
Does it come in on that?
Does it
come in on that?
Yeah,
it does.
Because,
Book in there.
like all the ladies go on stage and always
Yeah.
walk out the door, and they
That's
did
right.
it both parts in the movie.
That's right.
At both parts, the beginning and the end.
So
Yeah, a nice little sandwich of a movie. Yeah.
I know, it's like Mike Nichols knew what he was doing.
yeah, and what's really cool is I'm not sure if when the audience first saw this in theaters, unless they probably did because advertising
This
for the
movie
movie
did well.
They probably did because advertising for the movie, but were they even aware it was a drag show until they go backstage and you see them change really fast, which is a great sequence when you get to watch the drag queens change between numbers because it's like a pit crew in a race. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, you're an Indian now.
They have like 3 people helping them get out of whatever they were in,
Yeah,
helping them get into whatever they need to
All
be
within
in.
like under 30 seconds.
It's awesome.
It's pretty impressive.
Grace, what did you say we watched
Oh,
the scene?
I was like, oh, is someone adjusting his package? And I was like, oh my gosh, someone's
Somebody's
even
adjusting
adjusting
his
his package. That was
That's a
shocking.
nice little tidbit.
They gotta,
Just another reason this is
they
one
gotta
of my
hide that
favorite
shit.
movies.
It's very realistic, I guess you could say.
So it's a drag show, and you know that you keep hearing the stage manager, the guy who's kind of running the soundboard. He's like, "Okay, where's Starina?" You keep hearing him say that she's got to go on in like 5 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever he says.
Is that a biblical name?
Starina?
Yeah, sure.
Probably not.
Okay.
Go out on a limb
Gonna-
and say Leviticus.
I'm gonna take a shot in
It's
the
got the
dark and
heavy
say bullshit.
It's got the heaviness of Judges, but the flair of Luke. I don't know.
So Starina is just not reported to the stage. And the stage manager, the guy on the phone is just like, "What do you mean Starina's not coming down?" And then Robin Williams approaches to get a feel for the situation. And that's their big star. Starlina is the big star. That's like, so he's in crisis mode. He even says it whenever he goes to confront her. He says, "You trying to ruin me?" It's like, it's a big deal. She has to go on.
Yeah, that's a theme because the Starina will, or Albert will always, throughout the movie, always say, "You're only concerned about your show.
I'm just a meal ticket.
I'm just a meal ticket. I'm an object for your production," or something like that. He actually doesn't say that line, but I'm just channeling Albert's character.
You're doing it well.
You're channeling the Nathan Lane.
Good. I'm honored. That's quite a performance.
Yeah.
So Starina is locked up in a room. By the way, it's a great. She's under a blanket.
And here,
Yeah.
well, before we see any of this, we also meet the butler, Hank Azaria, the great, he's so talented, the Brockmire, Hank Azaria.
Oh, things are getting difficult for old Brackmeyer over here.
Oh my God, look how they massacred my boy. Just had to get one of those out.
Yeah, we had to.
Just anyways.
Good show.
And all his 90s glory as the butler character. What was his name?
Spartacus.
Agador Spartacus.
Agator
No,
Spartacus.
Spartacus is his fake name.
Yeah, Agator.
Agador is his
Agator
actual
is the
name.
actual
Because
Agador.
the Goldman's apartment is above the club.
Right.
So when the back what is it, the staircase from the back of the stage goes to like a side door in their apartment.
Something like that.
So-
I know this is Starlina's dressing room for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, no, it's not their bedroom. I thought it was their bedroom.
I thought it was their dressing room
I think it's a dressing room.
because he
Well,
goes up. I thought he went up to a different door.
No,
to
no,
go
no. He goes
later
up,
on in the scene.
He goes up the stairs, and that's where Hank Azaria is doing his Gloria Estefan impression.
Yeah,
then he talks to him for a
I
minute.
still think it's the dressing room, but
Okay.
here nor there.
Yeah.
Here nor there.
But what's funny is when you cut to where Starina, she's just lying under a blanket on a couch, but her feet are exposed, and by her I mean it's him. It's
It's
Nathan
Albert.
Lane.
Yeah,
but you'll
Albert.
get why I call her her in just a second because she identifies
Because
as a
it's
female.
It's a drag movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but she's under a blanket and she's man, the first lines you hear from this character are so telling of what this character is going to be through the movie. It's like, "You want to know how Starina died? Alone and old. You know, like just totally having some meltdown under a blanket and just kind of like not being able to. You don't know what's wrong. And by the way, at the end of the scene, you still don't really know what was wrong with Starina.
No, I think she was just having a mood.
Yeah, that's the point.
She seems to have that a lot. Like the sequence later on at the office. Oh my god.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh my god.
I don't understand why Starina didn't make a go for it in Hollywood. I mean, she's dramatic enough.
I mean, seriously, they could have just made a sequel about Starlina.
It would be.
That's a missed opportunity, Hollywood.
It would be. I'd watch it. So she's moping, and Agador is trying to revive
console
her
her.
spirits. Trying to be like, he has the best. The accent he has in this movie.
I can't do it.
I'm not even.
It's
good.
almost like Hank Azaria is great with voices.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like he's an insanely talented.
He said
voice
it was
actor.
because I think he grew up in Queens, and these were like
Appropriate for this movie.
the voice he was doing.
Took Chad a second.
Took me a minute. The voice he was doing was like the prostitutes that hung out on his block. With like the ladies of the night sounded like Agador Spartacus.
Agador Spartacus.
I'm like,
You can't handle my raw Guatemalaness.
You can't. That's my natural heat. You
Natural
can't.
heat.
My father was a shaman. My mother was the head priestess.
Don't forget that.
Yeah. Well, then why did they move to Jersey? I don't know. They're so stupid.
They wanted me to have a career, okay?
Yeah. Okay, you're starting to sound more like Tommy Wiseau than you are like Agador Spartacus.
That's too bad. It's because I can't imitate Hank Azaria. He's just too.
He's
trying to
he's
imitate-
He's another league, man.
You're trying to imitate the imitator, sir.
Exactly.
That's not a good idea.
It's just my head's folding in on itself at that point.
You don't bullshit a bullshitter. You don't imitate an imitator.
So he's trying to console Starina, and Armand runs up the stairs. The door's open. Starina slams it in his face right before he gets there and locks the door and says, "Ah!" She's like freaking out.
Don't look at me.
Don't
I'm
look at me. I'm
hideous.
hideous.
I'm hideous.
I'm hideous. I'm a monster. And he's banging.
I don't want you to see me like
banging on the
this.
door. He's like, "Come on, Albert, open up. What's going on in there? You got to get ready." He's like, "No." They're like pushing a chair in front of like the door, or Albert's pushing a chair in front of the door to block it from him.
And Agador is just like wisecracking the whole time.
He's part audience throughout the whole movie. It's awesome.
Armand's yelling through the door, "Why aren't you stopping this?" Agador's like, "I can't help it. She's so crazy." That's the line.
And then Robin Williams proceeds to break the door
He
down.
breaks the door down.
And like he resorts to it so quickly, like it makes me think, how routine is this?
This is pretty routine.
How often does this
It
happen?
just seemed like a Tuesday.
And so on this Tuesday, he breaks the door down and she retreats to behind a curtain, continues to say, "Don't look at me, I'm hideous," and yada yada yada, and Agador's wisecracking all the way. And then he just kind of sort of does the whole, "Well, I guess we're gonna have to move on with the show."
Oh yeah,
The stage manager runs in. We're just gonna put Carmen on.
We're gonna put Carmen on. Well, I guess we'll have to.
We
We'll
have
to
no
put Carmen
choice.
on. And Albert's like,
No,
"You wouldn't. They came to see Starina, and Starina will not disappoint them. I must go on."
even in this condition.
She's acting like she's like got leprosy. Like her skin's falling off.
Oh, and this way, one of the early. This movie is so funny, and one of the best early gags is Albert asks Agador, "Hey, I'm feeling bad. Can I have some medicine, please?" "Okay, take one of your Prin pills. Here you go." And he's like, "Thank you
And here's-
so
Petting.
much."
Here's
what do they
one
call
from
it?
here's one from
Petting
now.
pills.
Your petting pill?
Prin pills.
Perrin.
Prin?
Prin pills.
Prin, yeah.
Here's one for now and one for later. But you can't have
Yes.
any more, so don't ask me.
So don't ask me, okay? And
And he pulls it out of his
his crotch area. He pulls it like he's
Underwear.
wearing like first of all like short.
Oh yeah, like
denim
short shorts.
And he pulls it out
From
these pills
inside.
out of like the inside of the crotch area.
And he's wearing a t-shirt that's cut off to expose the midsection.
Yep. Because this
Just
character
because.
is amazing. And when they get out of the dressing room, Armand grabs him and he's like, What are you doing? You're giving her drugs? What are you giving her? And he's like, "Chill, it's just aspirin with the A and the S scratched out." And Armand
Yeah.
says, "You're a genius." To which Hank Azaria replies, I know. And then just walks away.
There are
'Cause
so
this
many.
is just a Tuesday.
So many
There
of
are
those things.
so many just throwaway gags that are
Oh my
amazing.
God.
Oh, speaking of
It's
which,
impressive.
one that I forgot about when I rewatched it is when he walks into the kitchen. There's just a chef picking a chicken off of the floor and putting it back on the plate, and he just kind of turns around
He's
like,
just like,
"Oh, I
"Oh,
didn't
yeah,
see that.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
see that."
No, it's a lobster, I believe.
It's a lot.
I've worked in restaurants and I've seen at least one owner of a restaurant say that to another cook. I'm like, I didn't see that.
Yep. So, he does so Starina decides to go and perform. She performs a great number.
She does her number.
She's a big
Fantastic
hit.
as always. Maybe you want to be there.
Because and Grace, you said this. Nathan Lane's got a great voice, right?
Oh,
he can
yeah.
sing.
Oh yeah, did you ever see the producers like they did on Broadway as
Yeah.
a musical, and then they did the movie version of the Broadway musical based on the movie? That was him and Matthew Broderick. He was great.
Yeah, Nathan
He can
Lane
sing.
is Broadway pedigree. That
Totally.
guy's talented.
That's why his songs are really good. You seem surprised, Grace, because you're like, oh, Nathan Lane can actually sing.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like, I was very surprised to hear him. And like everything is so coordinated with him. Is like his body. He's like just like a natural and really talented performer.
Oh yeah, he steals pretty much every scene he's in.
Yeah,
I think my favorite scene of him performing, though, I'm jumping in the movie, but is when they're like, what's the
John Wayne.
Oh,
walk
yeah,
like John Wayne?
Walk like John.
That
He's
scene
like-
is classic.
And Robin Williams says, that was perfect. Except I didn't know he walked like that.
Yeah, if you could just do the opposite of everything that you're doing.
That is one of the phenomenal scenes in this
That's a great scene.
movie when they're in the restaurant and they're trading. We'll get to that. So she performs, it's great. But when they're fighting, she does allude to the fact that she thinks Armand is seeing another man. And she's like, I know
And
I can
wow.
feel it. I can feel it. There's another man.
meal ticket.
I can feel there's another. I can feel it. Plus, there's white wine in the fridge, and I only drink red. So do you, man. The lines he delivers and the way he delivers them are so amazing. And then Robin Williams.
This
spurts
movie
off,
is filled with nuance.
Yeah.
And you can, the other thing about the nuance is like, you can tell how close they are as partners, like throughout the whole movie,
The
through their
chemistry.
ups and downs.
They've
like
been together a long time.
Yes, they have been life partners.
They are pair bonded.
It's beautiful.
It is that's one of the best things
There's-
about the movie.
It
their
is.
relationship.
So
I love
much
their
love.
dynamic. I love their chemistry.
It really gives you the idea that like for all the jadedness and all the BS of the world and how people can just get cynical, there is hope for some people because Armand and Albert exist in some reality.
Yeah,
It's
it's
sweet.
it gets you right here.
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
In the
trust
feels.
me, my
In the feels.
I cried like a baby, and my favorite scene is later in the movie that when they're sitting on the bench, he goes and gets.
Oh yeah,
That
it's,
I
it's
cry,
like right
it's
before
just-
like the big
it-
dinner. Yeah.
Oh man!
And that shot is also
kills
so
me. Yeah, the
pretty.
shot's beautiful, and
The sunset is perfect.
Watch,
Oh,
out,
man.
watch out for this Mike Nichols guy.
He's going places.
He's going places.
I sure hope I hear from him again.
I know. Maybe he'll get a big break someday.
Oh, well, you never know.
But anyways, so while Starlina is performing, that's whenever the sun comes around. The sun Val.
But you don't know it's the
that.
son right away.
You think it's a lover at first. That's
it's
why
just
that's
some
how
young
they shoot
man
the movie.
Well,
in
that's
their
right.
apartment.
Because it's set up. It's like, who's this guy who drinks the white wine?
And Armand kind of embraces him and kisses him on the cheek when he first
They,
sees him
they've
and
got
says,
some kind of a past. What's
Yeah.
this past all about?
He offers him
exactly.
he offers him a glass of white wine. Val says, "No, I only drink beer," and he's like, "Since when do you drink beer?"
which makes sense once you realize it's his son.
More nuance.
It's his son.
It doesn't call him dad till a little bit
later.
later.
It's later.
But
and
you
they-
slowly start to realize
it's
okay.
whenever he says, "Dad, I'm getting married."
Yeah, that's when
I'm engaged.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he tells him he's getting married before he says dad, and he seems like he's upset. And he's like, "Look, I don't want you to get the way you get, but I'm getting married."
Yeah, getting married.
He's like, "Oh," and then Robin Williams literally chugs a whole glass of white wine.
Yeah, when
yeah.
he's Val's
What's-
trying to talk to him, it's really good.
What's this? What's this? What are you doing?
What are you doing? Come on.
I love how they use alcohol
so
in this
great.
movie
If
too.
you're gonna do this, then that's it. You go. You go on.
Oh,
don't
that's
ask me
right.
for don't you ask me for a thing.
They have
Oh,
the
that
standoff.
was such a
They
good
have
scene.
the
And they
standoff.
shake hands. He says, "All right, goodbye, Dad."
Goodbye. All right, son. Goodbye. Good luck.
And, they
And he
play
takes
chicken.
about 2 or 3 steps before Robin Williams just breaks down, and it's so convincing. Like you believe it whenever he like. It's just like, all right, you
God.
called my bluff.
Grabs his son, brings him in for a hug, and says, I'm sorry you
It's-
called my bluff.
It gets you right here.
Yeah.
Like,
Man,
already with this movie.
At the end of the day, this movie's a family drama.
Oh yeah, this
It
movie.
is.
This
I mean,
movie.
it's comedy and there's so
it's
much happening.
bookended by the song "We,
We
Are
are a family. Yeah,
Like, they're not
it's
lying.
exactly what it is.
Man, this movie's so good.
got
so
layers.
good.
There's so many bluffs in this movie too.
So later,
Yeah, it's just people being dicks to each other.
so later, Albert comes back after performing, and by the way, he's dressed as
Who
like
is
a
he?
hobo. Or
Who is
something. Yeah, he's,
That's
and
weird.
he
It's
sees
like the
line.
opposite outfit.
Yeah,
like,
that he had
like,
on at the
oh,
beginning.
He had a costume change.
Yeah, he had some serious costume change.
How many costume changes happened for him to go to Star Arena to Hobo? What,
Hey,
five?
This is Albert we're talking about.
Yeah, there's never too many.
Al's gonna Bert, so to speak.
You know what? I'll dock you one credit for that.
Fair. It's fair.
That's a fair made up amount of currency that you could go right on ahead and dock me.
All right.
All right, the motion passes. So she freaks out because she comes back and there's 2 glasses of wine that's already been drank, and just Armand sitting there. He's like, "Who is he?
Who is
I
he?
knew it. Who is he?"
Who's the hussy?
And Armand's like,
See some young guy.
relax. It's Val,
Their son.
their son."
Their son.
And he's like, "Oh, why didn't you say anything?" And Armand's just like, surprise. And he's like, "Go look." He's in his bedroom. And there's the sweetest scene of Albert walking into the room, seeing Val asleep on the bed. He kind of goes over, kind of like, brushes his head, kind of like a mother would do, and then picks up his dirty laundry off the floor
Yep.
to go wash it, takes it out of his room.
Also,
really
like,
sweet.
the room, because he's in college, still looks like a 90s teenage boy's room.
Oh, yeah.
Which sticks out like crazy among the set pieces. The only time you hear it. And it's just juxtaposes this idea of, like, the son and his personality.
So he comes back out, and they all go to bed. And the next morning, you see Albert perusing the markets of South Beach, the outdoor markets, and it's clear everyone knows who he is.
Oh, yeah.
everyone knows
You
who
can
he is.
tell they're like folk heroes of South Beach.
Oh yeah, they're
And
people.
it's one of those 90s kind of sequences where it's just like all the shopkeepers just like, "Morning, Albert."
Yeah, I have the usual. Thank you, Donnie. A triumph. Like he's
Oh, and then he
Oh,
goes
yeah,
to the
well,
deli
good,
and they're
you
like,
give him
try
that.
the schmeckle.
the
Or some-
schneckums.
oh,
When the schneckums beckons.
She's like, try the
the
schneckums. And it's like a
schneckums
pastry,
beckons.
and he's like, no, I can't do it. Then he walks
Just
away.
one more
He's like,
for the
"Oh."
road. Would that trouble you too much, darling?
It's ridiculous. So you can tell, like, this family has roots in South Beach. That drag beach, excuse me. That drag show has probably been there for like 20 years.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely
I mean,
a
they're
cultural
cemented.
institution.
Val
They are
has
cemented.
alluded to the idea that, like, he grew up there in, like, the club scene on Miami. That's how he is as a person. So it's like and that scene shows
Well-
like a good community. That's the that helps.
Well, we do find out later that Robin Williams is the one who raised him.
Yeah.
Like, he knows his mother. He's on good terms with his mother, but he was raised by
Yeah,
Albert
yeah.
and Armand.
But I mean, like the family of Albert, Armand, and Val is like so solid that it's
yeah.
affected the community of South Beach. in,
we
like,
we
such a
actually
strong
we
way.
actually do get we only get that one great scene dynamic with the 3 of them, and that's later on in the movie. But yeah, love it.
It's so phenomenal. So Albert picks up a cake for his piglet. That's what he calls Val throughout the movie. The
My little
piglet is
piglet.
back. That's what he even tells the baker. He's like, the
My
piglet is
my
home.
piglet's back.
I
And he
need
needs, like, a brisket or
Tell
something."
him, put on the cake to my little piglet from his auntie. That's what just everyone loves Albert. He goes back.
How could you not love Albert?
And by the way, this is awesome.
doesn't love Albert?
Albert comes back into the kitchen.
He is a passionate, intelligent woman.
We're gonna get there. Goes back into the kitchen where Agator and Armand are already there. And by the way, when Agator gives Armand his coffee, Armand's like, "Oh, what is this, sludge?" And Agator's like, "Yes, I thought to be sludge would be better than coffee." And then when Albert comes
So
in,
many throwaway gags.
and then when
so good.
Albert comes in, he picks up his cup, which by the way, they're like, what did you
They're like little chalices.
yeah,
fancy ass glasses?
Oh, wait,
coffee
this
chalices.
This is the breakfast scene where also Armand is not sitting at the table. He's sitting at like
On a bicycle.
like an exercise bike,
Reading a newspaper.
reading a newspaper.
Clearly like a little bit hungover.
Well, obviously
Maybe.
you've never been to Miami.
I have tales of Miami, sir.
We're not going to go there.
gonna
We're
go
not
there.
going to tie Miami into this great
why
movie.
why would you go to Miami? Seriously, why would
I was
anybody?
took him there.
Anyways,
Gets my will.
this movie's
Anyhow.
not about Miami. It just takes place in
but,
Miami.
But then when Albert comes back in, he picks up his chalice of coffee, drinks it, and then goes, "Oh, Turkish coffee, delightful!" And then Agator slaps Armand and says, "See." This is the chemistry between every
Between
actor.
all of them.
It's just phenomenal. And then Albert starts folding laundry because Armand has not told him that Val's getting married. That was the whole reason the son came back, was to tell his dad that he was getting married. And the dad was clearly not that happy about it.
They weren't thrilled about him getting married because he's like 20
He's
years
like
old.
20.
He's a kid.
And you
He's
find out
marrying
the
like an
girl
eight-
is like
Yeah,
17,
he's
18.
18, he's 20,
18,
she's
19.
18.
Some young. They're too young.
Even for the 90s.
That's their problem. They're too young.
Everybody, her parents, his
Too young.
parents, both were like.
So are we at the
they're
point
so
where we
young.
introduce the senator,
senator.
and his wife?
I think it's time we should just jump into that.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the senator is played by none only than Gene Hackman, a conservative from, I want to say, Oklahoma, Ohio.
Pretty sure it's Ohio.
Yeah, an O state.
Yep. I believe he got elected on his campaign, his anti-Superman campaign.
Yeah. What was the slogan of that campaign again, Sam?
I believe it was death before Superman or
Okay.
death by Superman.
Okay, that's fair. So, religious Gene Hackman, who is against the Antichrist, thus hating Superman. His whole thing
Yeah,
is
we're doing that. We're going to do that for the whole thing.
the whole
good.
time. His whole thing is family values. He's a conservative. It's the family values group is a foundation he founded with another senator who, when he one day realizes that the senator has not only passed away, but died while having sex with an underage prostitute.
Yeah, and by the way, he is
An African-American.
primarying.
African American. He makes a big deal about it. We're
Yes.
not. He is.
He does.
But
In
they
the movie-
did.
He
In
makes
the
a big
movie,
deal
they
about it.
do.
In the movie, he says, and I'm quoting, that the blacks are going to get upset about this. That is Gene Wilder's character talking in that movie.
Talking like
quoting
a
a
like a
line from
90s
the movie.
politician.
The Birdcage.
The Birdcage.
Talking
watch
like
it.
a 90s politician.
And he, by the way, he's in the primaries against Bob Dole because he's like, I'm glad I ran with Senator Jackson because Bob Dole's way too liberal.
Back in the day when Dole was too liberal for conservatives.
No, he was too liberal for Senator Keeley. That's
Yeah.
for that's
Keeley.
for
That's
damn
what it
sure.
is. The name
That's Senator Keeley.
which sounds
Well,
like
this-
dumbass senator name.
This
from a movie.
movie did come out in 1996, so I mean,
That
I
was
bet
an
it was
election year.
prime time for Bob Dole jokes, and I bet Bob Dole jokes probably had a lot to do with Bob Dole. Bob Dole
don't need this right now.
Bob Dole doesn't need this right now.
So, but there are some great Bob Dole jokes in that in this movie,
There's
and
only
we're gonna get
two,
to them.
but they're
they're
great.
so good.
One is the one you talked about. It's like him being Dole's too liberal.
There's a third one in the
Bob
middle
Dole's
that's kind of
too
a
liberal.
throwaway, and I can't remember.
I can't
it right
remember.
now.
It's mainly
but the one at the end is
there's
the
The
best
one
one.
that is my favorite joke of the movie. But
There
we're
are
not- we're
so
heading
many
ahead of
throwaway jokes in this movie. It rivals Airplane.
So basically, Gene Hackman
Fair.
finds himself in a political scandal just because he knew the guy who this crazy thing happened to. Remember back in the day when you could be guilty by association of some sort of crazy scandal?
Yeah, like you worked with the guy who's involved in the scandal, so now like
You're-
now you're
That's-
muddy.
And that's your career?
Yeah, I mean-
Simpler times.
I was gonna say it's great that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, we don't have that problem.
But anyhow, so he's like, okay, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna bounce back from this? Because his whole thing is family values, like anti homosexuality, anti like anything.
Civil rights.
Civil rights.
To the point of like sexuality.
Yeah, pretty much just like pretty much anti-America when you get down to
Yeah,
it.
he's a pretty terrible person. But anyhow, and he's not really like a play on conservatives. He's extreme. Like he's extreme in all of his views.
Yeah.
And that's
but
why he's
he
so
is
comical.
like what like Gordon Gekko was the business people. This guy is the politicians. He's just all about the game.
Yeah, he
all
just
about
cares about
power,
winning.
trying to-
I really hope this doesn't determine the outcome of your vote.
Yeah,
exactly.
In fact, when his running partner dies, you pointed this out, he just feels inconvenienced because he's like, great, now I have to deal with this scandal. And
Yeah,
I tagged my tray into the wrong buggy.
It
That's
sounds
not a saying.
it sounds ridiculous, but it is a scandal because a
People
whole
don't
bunch
say that, Gene Hackman.
so many reporters show up at his house.
Yep.
And then that's when his daughter decides to tell them, by the way, I'm marrying a boy from college. And his parents at first respond in such a way that like, you're too young, but they pause and go, this could be good for us.
Yeah,
We can spin this.
We can spin this, depending on where he comes from.
Yeah.
Of course.
Now,
And then she makes up a lie about where he comes from.
Yeah, because he can't be Jewish.
No. or two dads and from South Florida.
Yeah, all that stuff is unacceptable.
Yeah. So she makes something up about him being his name's not Goldman, it's Coleman, right?
Yeah, Coleman.
Coleman.
The D is silent.
Yeah, and
that they're Greek.
They're Greek.
That they're
His dad is the cultural attaché to Greece from America.
Which is like an arts ambassador.
Yeah. Oh, it's a little bit something like the arts. That's
Like a
what her mom said.
diplomatic
Like a diplomatic position. And the mother is a homemaker. Because
there aren't enough of those these days.
Yeah, basically Callista
again,
Flockhart
quoting the Birdcage movie from
Movie from the-
1996.
that's what the wife says when the daughter says,
Yeah.
"Oh, the mom's a homemaker." She says, "Oh, well, isn't that refreshing this day and age?"
Well,
Yeah.
basically, the daughter says everything she needs to say to get her parents to not freak out at the moment, whatever that is. If saying that, like, listen, my fiance, he's a poodle, and if they were pro poodle, they'd probably say it. Because she is struggling in the scene, and she hides it well, but you can tell Callista Flockhart's character is struggling.
No, it's like I really like how straight this scene plays it. No pun intended.
I detect a hit of
No.
intention.
No pun.
10%? 10%
You can believe whatever you want.
10% of margin of error. Let's call it that.
But like in contrast to how the movie has just like been like just so on the nose about is just what it's about. Like this is the culture
Yeah.
that we're portraying, and we're not going to hide it. We're not shy about it.
No, they don't.
And-
They're not scared of anything.
And for lack of a better term, this movie does play it kind of
Straight.
this scene does.
Yeah, it does. So they let them know that, and then they try to figure out a way to spin it and make it work for them.
Well, they decide they're gonna have a big white wedding, reinforce family values. That'll make they said we're gonna be building bridges with a cultural attaché to Greece that will take the focus off of this scandal. It will show progress forward. We're gonna move forward. This is the wife talking. By the way, this is a good insight into the family dynamic.
Oh yeah,
You realize
yeah.
that the senator doesn't really plan his career. It's his wife that
Yes.
really tells him what to do.
He's not the idea.
And then he
does
goes
it.
and does it and kind of treats her like shit.
I never
yeah.
noticed
At
that
every
but
step.
that
Yeah,
that
she is
totally their
she's
dynamic.
the ambitious one.
But then
Yeah.
but they end up hugging at the end of every scene that they're in, despite him treating her like shit.
yeah.
That could just
It
be
throws
like
me off.
like a validation of something. Like that could just be like them, kind of like that's part of their process.
No, I
of she
think-
she feeds
I
the
think it's
ideas.
just-
He thinks he comes up with them, and then they hug.
I think that this movie just is way ahead of its time. But anyways,
So they decide to hightail it down to Florida. He tells the press they're going to their farm. But one
Yes.
of the reporters from the National Enquirer bribes their driver, who tells them they're
Well, an
actually
actor
going
from
to
Frasier,
South
mind
Beach.
you.
Oh, I would go one step further. sir.
Tom McGowan.
Tom McGowan, one of the main characters from the movie Heavyweights.
Oh, that's a
That's a deep.
that's a deep cut.
That's a deep cut, and I would.
I
love to
mean,
talk
like,
about
hey,
Heavyweights
while
someday.
we're on the '90s, that is a quintessential
yeah,
piece of '90s cult
yeah, we should
classic
watch
right
that.
there.
Also, his cameraman is he's in True Lies.
Grant Heslov.
Grant Heslov is in True Lies. Yeah, so it's just 90.
It's a
actors
'90s
out
who's
the
who.
ass.
'90s who's who for sure.
Totally. But they basically bribe and realize that they're actually driving to South Beach, so they're going to tail the senator's family with
And
his driver.
It's
on South
like
Beach.
it's always the driver. It's always
the
the driver,
driver.
like giving the scoops.
Yeah.
And he's just so easily paid off.
He sells. Well, I mean, it's because he's in a service job, and Senator Keeley treats him badly. So
yeah.
he has no loyalty. He's
Yeah,
like, wow,
yeah.
I'll take any dollar to sell these motherfuckers out. They treat me
would-
like crap.
I would have done the same thing in his position for sure.
So that's their thing. So they're going to head. So we now have like a ticking clock of, dear God, the Keeleys are down to South Beach. Val gets the word, and he has to start figuring out what to do.
Because they do not know that Val's parents are a
Val's
gay couple
parents.
that own
That
a,
own
the
a
happening drag
nightclub.
show club in South Beach, Miami.
Yeah. So does Val sit down with Armand and start to explain it
Yeah.
of what needs to happen?
Well, this is when Val goes to Armand when he is coaching Albert in his number, and that's
Oh,
one of the most
best scenes.
iconic
dancing.
scenes.
Okay,
Our
one of the
favorite
best scenes.
scene.
And I gotta say, like, I'm totally on Albert's side here. That extra, he was just he didn't care. He didn't
He
give a
had
shit.
an attitude.
Yeah, he had a serious attitude.
Serious attitude.
Like
I mean,
every motion he was doing was like
Yeah.
He's just like
Throwing it
half-assing
in.
it.
chewing his gum. Honey, you're wasting your gum.
Helps me think, honey. You're
That's
wasted.
good.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
So the best part of that scene, because Albert's having some trouble working with this like younger person who's just basically a prop for his musical number.
Who's just there for a paycheck, couldn't
Pretty
care
much.
less.
But he does kind of like you see him later in the movie during the one scene. He does kind of own it.
Yeah,
So
in
he is
the
talented.
end.
He is talented.
However,
But-
he needs to get his head out of
He
that.
needs-
Yeah,
needed
you
to
got to
get-
bring your game in rehearsals.
Yeah,
man.
dude, you got to
bring
prove to
your
these
game.
people that you're worth working with them.
He needed to
They
get a
gotta trust
pep
you.
talk
Word.
from Armand.
Yeah.
And that pep talk is
Oh.
amazing.
Oh, that
Oh.
pep! It's all about the
Madonna,
pep.
Madonna, Madonna.
Martha Graham, Martha Graham, Martha Graham.
But keep it inside.
Yeah.
And
Michael
then
Kidd,
he
Michael
nails
Kidd,
it
Michael
later.
So it's a whole dance thing. They try to figure that out.
I have to put one side note in. So Chad and I, who are both 30-year-old men, who
What's that got to do with it? Why
no,
gotta bring Asian
I
to
think
this?
it'll put it in
Jesus
context.
Christ.
We were watching Grace perform in this ballet. It was like a chamber ballet performance.
Yes, she was part of the. So it was a event between Pensacola Ballet and Pensacola Symphony Orchestra. You had some musicians off to the side playing live from the symphony, while ballet was being performed.
And that was great.
That was fantastic.
And we had a great time. But
Yeah, but they talked a lot about the ballet because Peter Rubart, the conductor of Pensacola Symphony, knew the composer. They took time out between performances to talk about the development of the ballet and the piece, and really what they felt about it. And I believe it was Michael who started saying something about different dance ideas. Or
yeah,
no,
and
no, that was
he
someone else.
referenced Martha Graham about 2 or 3 times, and I'm not kidding. In unison, every time he said it,
me and
Chad and I
Ashley.
would just be like, Martha Graham, Martha Graham, Martha Graham. In an audience of
We're-
other
yeah.
adults.
So we're around a bunch of people in this theater, and the seats are small and it's packed. So we're doing it, but quietly, so no one notices. So the guy goes, Martha Graham, blah blah blah, and we'll go, Martha Graham, Martha Graham, Martha Graham.
But of course, you keep it all inside.
All
Yeah,
inside,
that's
because it all
that's
inside.
the key. That's the key.
The key.
That is some peak Robin Williams.
Oh,
He's
man.
imitating those dancers. That is seriously.
But this is when Val decides to give Armand the 401 of what exactly is happening. And he lays it all out for him. And he's like, you got to do this for me. We have, the Keeleys believe this. We're really this. We got to trick the Keeleys into believing we are what we are not.
and it's rough. I mean,
It's
like hearing
rude
it,
and
it's
fucked up.
yeah, it's rough because he's telling him like you can't be like you are.
Only
and
a
the
20-year-old
like
shithead
you
who asks
know,
his parents to do
you know
this.
who
He's
you
so
you know who you
selfish.
are. Well, they aren't gonna like that. So we need you to pretend to be something else.
Her dad's a senator.
Yeah,
We got to figure this out.
yeah, and he's like a super conservative senator.
And Armand
And this is
decides
the '90s.
his initial reaction is no, we can't do that.
he's like fuck that.
he
He's
tells
like,
him to send Albert
no,
away.
he says a great line. He says it took me 20 years to figure out who I am, and I'm not gonna like let some senator take all that away. You know, like it's a very powerful line.
And
And,
then-
yeah, the worst part is when he asks, the Val basically says, "Well, we need to send Albert away."
Yeah, we can't have him here. And then he takes a beat, he takes a walk, he
He's
gets
too
upset,
much.
and then he comes back and he tells Agador Spartacus to start moving things around. We got to figure this out. We're going to have guests for dinner tomorrow night. And Val's like, thanks, Dad. And he goes, Val, don't talk to me for a while.
Yeah, it's a
He's-
powerful line.
It's like a dad who does what his son wants.
What his son needs, he's trying to help him get his
Right.
future wife.
But
At a
it's
great
kinda-
cost.
At a huge
it's gonna
cost.
cost.
That is
him.
quite a sacrifice he's
And
making
then-
for his child.
So everyone comes to this dilemma. They got to figure out they got to figure out what to do with Albert. They were like, well, maybe he can be his uncle, and they say that's not going to work because he's still Albert, which is a dick thing to say. So you guys send Albert away. Also, we got to figure out what to do for my mom. What do we do? So they're trying to fill the mom
Well,
role while kicking Albert out.
Before they get to the mom, they basically decide we're going to send Albert away.
But they
Yeah.
And
haven't
that'll
told
solve
Albert.
everything. That's the kicker because Armand takes Albert out.
He
They
takes
go to
him
the
to brunch.
beach.
Yeah,
They go
it's
to
a whole
lunch.
thing.
But then Albert decides I got to go home for some whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin, there's a whole thing where Robin Williams pretends to hurt his leg to try to keep him from going home, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Albert's like, why won't you let me go home? They finally get home and they run into Val, and Val assumes that Armand's already told.
He hadn't. There's all these people decorating,
Oh,
redecorating.
that's right.
like for lack of a better term, straightifying their house.
Yeah, and they keep bringing in crap like a giant moose head.
Moose heads and crucifixes.
giant
and
crucifix.
Anything with dicks on it, they're taking out.
Anything
Joke
that
of the
looks like
movie,
art.
Not an observation of myself.
Spoiler alert. There's a lot of things with dicks on it.
It's like most of the house.
Yeah.
Everything with the
Everything.
walls and the roof.
Down to the china.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's parts of the foundation they just had to rip out.
Yeah.
Too many dicks in this foundation.
And by the way, it's the
Yep,
drag.
too many dicks.
It's the drag queens that are working at the nightclub that are redecorating the house. They're
Yeah.
the ones that, by the way, with cast just so
Well, that's
Oh,
their
they're so- they-
that's their day jobs. They're
yeah.
redecorators.
Oh,
So-
like the drag queens in this are like so fantastic. The cast, they're great. Don't even.
All right, so they're redecorating the house. This is when the mom comes in because what happens is when they come back and Val has already assumed that Armand's told Albert that Albert needs to go, he kind of blurts it out and Albert hears it, and that's when it's a painful scene because Albert says, "Okay, I'll go."
And Albert's a very emotional character, is what we're finding out right about now.
But this was one of the harshest things done to him, and he keeps it pretty contained because he's like, he grabs his toothbrush and he's like, "I know when I'm not wanted. No one wants the freak. No one wants the monster." And it's hard because
It's
they're asking
rough.
him to pretend not to live in his house when the future spouse of his child is coming there to
he
meet
raised.
them. It's terrible. And he takes his toothbrush and
That's
he's
his
like,
piglet.
"I'm going to Los Scopos." And Armand's like, "Los Scopos? There's nothing but a cemetery there." And he's like, "Exactly. I packed light."
Oh my god, it's so dramatic.
And even Armand
It's like
says,
it's dramatic and then it's
But it's
dramatic.
it's still a throwaway gag,
It's
and it's
so
just
good.
So many of those. That
there's
are so
a gag
great.
that comes after that because Armand says, "You're going to a cemetery with just a toothbrush. How Egyptian of you." And that's the last line he says as he walks out the door. And then, so he's got to go chase down. He
it
runs
stacks
after
the
Albert
jumps.
because he's got to chase him down. And that gets to my favorite scene. in the
He
whole
is
movie.
running after Albert for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Now,
Oh
this is-
yeah, that is perfect. He's chasing Albert because Albert's if not is running away on purpose or is a runaway train. Or
Oh wait,
something.
this is not.
I mean, hell, this movie should have been called Chasing Albert.
And that's the thread of the whole movie. It's love.
could have gotten an Oscar.
It's
for that.
love.
Always love.
Grace has got a good point. The whole point of this movie is
Could have thrown
is
Ben
the-
Affleck in there.
Can we not?
No,
Not this one.
not
And I
this
didn't.
one.
I
It
didn't
was
the 90s.
remember that the senator and his wife always hug at the end of their
That's crazy.
scenes.
They
So
do.
it's always love.
Even though there's abuse going on.
Yeah. Oh man.
Hopefully he became. We'll get to that, but hopefully he had a little bit of his horizons broadened after the end of this movie. We'll get to that.
We do get there.
So, Armand goes and catches up with Albert and basically catches him at a restaurant. They go to one of their favorite places because Albert is about to pass out because he's so overrun by emotion.
That he's dehydrated?
Yeah, apparently.
He's an emotional guy. I don't know
dude.
if you noticed.
We can all
Yeah.
be, but so he takes them, and they know them because everyone knows them in South Beach.
Everyone
They're like,
knows
"Hey,
them.
do you want your?" Yeah, he says,
The
"Hey, we'll have
usual.
our usual." They recognize them by name when
Absolutely.
they come in, and so because Armand is a human being who loves his partner, he realizes this is a really shitty thing I'm doing, asking him not to be in his own house, around his own son, around the girl who's going to marry his son, and the parents of that girl. So he's like, "You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna compromise. You're gonna be an uncle. We're gonna make you into an uncle. You're just gonna be there, and you're gonna be an uncle." And this is when he does the John Wayne impression because you got to try and train him
Oh,
to be
man,
more
this-
straight.
A little more
I
masculine.
think that they're like at brunch on a Thursday. I don't like. I just
you
I
can
just feel
brunch
like
on a Thursday.
I feel like that's the kind of lives that they live.
Yep.
And when this
be
is
nice.
going down,
Must be nice.
and just like and I love everything about Nathan Lane in this whole movie, but he's so great in this scene. Like it's just like, oh, of course I can be like that. How hard can it be? Grabs the glass, like pinky
Pinky
extended.
extended. That happens. So he's, Armand is constantly slapping the pinky down. He's like, "Pinky down, pinky down."
He
Look at your
starts
hand."
like trying
Yeah.
to train him, and he's just like, okay, you gotta talk like a man. He's just like, Albert, how you doing? You old so and so. What'd you think of the game that night? And Albert's like, oh, how do you think I feel?
betrayed,
Betrayed,
bewildered.
And he's just like,
That's
is
not.
that right? He's like, I don't know,
I don't know.
because it's not wrong, but it's not on.
Like, okay, like let's start let's start with building your sandwich. How are you gonna build your sandwich? Well, I guess I'd take the spoon and I'd get some mustard. It's like, no.
You smear it on.
Men smear it on.
Men smear. Just oh my god, everything about this.
It's
scene.
one of the greatest scenes when they're at the lunch, and we're getting to my favorite scene very soon. But
but of course he also has to practice walking.
so yeah, we go.
We have to see him walk. Just walk over there and back. Just let me see
Is
it.
this the John Wayne part?
Yeah.
Where he
So
tells him to
the
walk
first
like
one-
John Wayne?
The first one is natural him.
And it's Albert.
It's
And
Albert.
yeah, like
Fabulous.
just palms facing the ground, just like swaying his arms. He's got that kind of swagger with the walk. Just it's very much not masculine, I guess you would say.
That's definitely what they're going for in the scene.
I think that's what he's trying to play up, if I'm not mistaken.
So he tries to show him to walk like John Wayne.
Walk like John Wayne, Pilgrim.
Walk like John Wayne.
And he walks like John Wayne.
Does he? Yeah.
Almost exactly like
yeah,
John Wayne
it
walks.
actually is. You don't think it is,
Ma'am.
but then you look at it and it's just
Because-
like
Pilgrim.
Because there's like an old lady just like having like lunch just and reading just on a nice day in Miami or whatever, just and she just keeps on noticing the strange behaviors of Armand and Albert. And whenever he John Wayne walks by her, like very confidently, mind you, it's a very confident John Wayne walk.
actually it's pretty
stops. He stops to address her. He's like, "Ma'am."
yeah, because he's got that big sun hat.
Yeah,
Yep.
he
That
puts
he's
it on
treated
for
like a
effect.
cowboy hat, and
those sunglasses.
and Armand is just like good accessories.
Props.
That'll work.
Quick
Props.
to the fucking costume department of this.
Oh,
They
God.
did
movie.
such a good job.
The
Just
production design costumes of this movie.
Every
ridiculous.
time Albert shows up, just every single time, he's wearing the perfect outfit.
I just to digress for a minute from the plot. I don't like the area of Miami. I went there once when I was like in high school a couple times. I found everyone to be very rude, very congested. I didn't really like that whole South Florida area. I don't like going there. But
Oh, so you visited Miami?
I was in the
Miami,
airport once.
South Beach. I was there. Yeah, we had to fly to Miami to go to Chicago. That was fun.
Yeah, made
That's
a lot of
backwards.
sense.
A lot of sense. But I was there, it's just crowded. Everyone's kind of jerk. So when I generally see things that take place in South Florida, I'm a little standoffish. But this movie does the South Beach what the Blues Brothers did for Chicago. It immerses you in the culture and the point of it and the true nature of what everyone's thinking and feeling who lives there. I really believe the story actually happened there. It's one of the people. It's a cliche, but people say that I felt like the city was its own character. I believe that with the Birdcage.
Well, I feel
that's
like
fair. That's fair.
I feel like it's definitely that little burb that they live in.
Yeah, that one stretch of South Beach is
Yeah.
just like those few blocks where there's a couple clubs and restaurants.
Yeah.
Not all of Miami.
You really,
not even all
you
of
really
the
get
beach.
immersed into
It's
into
just
that area.
That one part of South Beach.
and to these people,
Yeah.
the characters feel like people. They don't
Exactly.
feel like characters. They feel real.
I mean, besides the trip they're about to take that we're about to get to, where they go into Miami to go to an office.
Yep.
It's all takes place. What I assume is in the same like 5-block radius.
No, I
of
feel like
South Beach.
they actually had to drive into the city
For that one scene, yeah, but I feel like
for that
most
scene.
of it's like,
but most of it, I feel like, is very contained.
it's like a neighborhood tale.
Oh, is that what you're saying? Then
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree
yeah.
with that. Sorry.
Yeah,
Why
you starting shit because people go to an office. Sam, you starting shit. I see you starting shit.
Yeah, man. I have a thing about people that work in offices.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's fair.
So anyhow, the Birdcage. We come back to our protagonist, and basically what they've decided is they come back. Armand tells Val, "Hey, Albert's going to be your uncle," and
this is
Val
what
does
we're
not
doing.
take it well because
No, he doesn't. But Armand is like, "Hey, I'm doing this."
Yeah,
It's
because
happening.
He lays it down.
Lays it
By the way,
lays down
Val
the
is,
law.
but he's so So if we take out the bigotry, if we just take out the fact that he's asking them to cover up who they are and to pretend like there's something they're not.
No, he's not doing it because that's what he wants.
No, of course not. But if we take that
It's
aside,
still shitty.
but if we take all of that aside, there's even a scene where he comes in and all of the helpers are there moving stuff around and he's just fussing at them because he always says, "Don't add, just subtract," because he doesn't like the fact that they're bringing in like moose heads and stuff like that. And I'm just like, this kid, even if you take out all the extra stuff of the fact that he's asking them to change their lives, even though I understand he's just trying to appease this senator. But even if you take all that
Yeah.
away, he's not even appreciative of the fact that these people are all working their butts off to try and pull this shit off for him, and he's just fussing at everyone all the time.
Yeah, he's ungrateful.
He really
I mean,
gets under my nerves.
Yeah.
Listen, he's 20 years old, and 20-year-olds don't deal with stress well. It doesn't change the fact that he's being shitty.
Yeah.
And so hurtful.
But it makes sense
Yeah.
for when I'm constantly reminded of how young this kid is. That's the only thing that I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not as surprised. Because 20-year-olds don't deal with stress well. But it is shitty.
And so he comes back. Val doesn't take it well that Albert's saying, but you're right. Armand just like, hey, we're doing this.
This is
so
what's
they go
happening
with it.
now.
That's
We're
when the
doing
mom
it.
idea comes up because Val says if we had a woman, we could pull it off with Albert being an
A
uncle.
real whole woman.
a real life woman.
biological cis woman. So like that's what they're going with. And then Armand says, "Well, we could try your mother." And they're like, "Are you serious?"
Val's
And,
biological mother, who no one has spoken to.
yeah, and Val says in the movie, he says very explicitly, "I haven't spoken to her in 20 years."
Yeah,
so
I
that's
never met her.
Yep.
I never met her. She was never part of my life. Do you think she'd do this? And Armand says, "Yeah." He says, "You don't think she'll do this? I don't think she'll do this." And Armand says, "Well, it's different. When you were born, she was young, she was scared, she was broke. She's in a very different place now. I think she'd probably help us out with the situation because, as you find out later, she's an incredibly successful businesswoman in Miami who's very a great. What were you saying about her?
Oh man, this scene is so
Christine
interesting.
Baranski.
Christine Baranski.
Peak 90s Christine
Oh,
Baranski.
Christine.
Armand
Oh, yeah.
walks into the room. Oh yeah, she's so attractive in this scene.
She's a stone cold fox.
But he walks into the scene and she is the woman and he's the man and she is the dominant character. In every way, she's leading the scene. She's leading where it goes to, and it gets juicy.
She even whenever they're dancing, she dips him.
Oh, that's
Oh, did that
so
happen?
cool.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
Yeah, they're doing that number.
And she
They
just
do a
comes
number.
on hard. Like the first time, the reason Val exists is she comes on as hard as she did the first time.
There's a
they got
woman in
together.
my bedroom. Mercy me.
Mercy me. Oh,
Let's
my.
go and see what all those straight men are getting into.
So I feel so bad because Albert is in the waiting room and he's like, oh my gosh. Armand is there with Val's biological mother and it's been a while now. Who knows what's going on? And they're drinking also back there because I think she's like, they're having whiskey or I can't remember.
champagne.
Yeah, they're
champagne.
having a whole
They're
moment.
toasting to their son getting married.
And they're
That's
dancing.
the cover.
And she
they have.
notices that Armand has like, she's like, oh, I really like your necklace. And oh, like,
She's coming on
she's
to
like
him.
moving down his silk shirt. And he's like, careful.
They're both regressing to
yeah.
like their younger selves.
Their
of
days
what happened.
of what brought them together in the first
Exactly.
place, that initial love. And
There's that chest hair
there's
stroking.
there's that chest hair and it just gets lower and lower and she starts unbuttoning.
Because they
and-
keep cutting back to Albert in the waiting room.
Who doesn't know how to sit.
Yeah, he doesn't
Albert's
really
very
know.
uncomfortable.
He's getting more and more nervous
Yeah.
and he's like, something is wrong. Something's not sitting well with me. And he bursts into the scene
Hysterical.
and she's it opens up and she's unbuttoning Armand's shirt and her hand is like down on his chest.
And we get just one of the best sequences from Nathan Lane
And I
right
feel
after this.
so bad for him. He's been having a really hard day and he will continue to have a hard day.
This whole movie's a Monday for Nathan Lane.
He catches him. He catches him. We get one of those.
Oh, yeah, he does that several times in the movie.
And we have a series of that moving forward.
He leaves and he gets to the parking garage and he gets in the
storms
car
off.
and he turns on the car and as soon as the car starts moving, he has another one of those
He
moments.
he accidentally honks the horn and he's just like
Because he doesn't drive. Armand is the one who drives. Albert is the
He
one who's in the
actually
passenger seat.
Armand actually goes back home and he's
the
just
bus.
like, "Where's Albert?" He's like, "Hey, he's not here." He's like, "He hasn't been home." He's like, "No." He's like, I had to take the damn bus."
And he's like, that means that Albert's driving home at 20 miles per hour with the parking brake on. So I'm going to have to go find him
all
now.
the way back from
Even-
downtown Miami.
Even taking the bus, he gets home before Albert.
It's so funny. And by the way, he finds him at the bus stop.
Just like that, like in that sequence, it's hilarious. Nathan Lane's performance is hilarious, but it shows Albert just like, oh my God, you're helpless. You need someone to take care of you because you can't take care of yourself.
And this leads us to one of the most tender scenes
This is-
in the whole movie.
This is something Sam and I were discussing earlier. This is my emotional highlight of the movie. Is this next scene? It's my personal favorite scene in the whole movie. Now, The third act, which we're going to get to, is probably the best part of the movie because we're going to talk about it in a second. But this is my personal favorite
It's just
scene.
a different kind of high
And
the
point.
movie.
and the scene, just to set it off, is so beautiful. They're like sitting at a bus stop. It's like clearly right by a port. There's a ship in the back sailing off, and it says like Saturn Diamond or
Oh
something
my
on
god,
it.
that cruise ship that just kind of sails. off.
Saturn Diamond.
Perfect
And it's
for
in the
scene.
sunset, and it's so beautiful. Like I don't know
Saturn Diamond.
much about
Oh yeah,
lighting,
you know that
but
hashtag.
it's so peachy, the scene. It's so warm, and it looks like they're on heaven. Actually, it looks like they're dead and they're in heaven. Like it's unreal how warm it is. And so, anyways,
And it's got like he's sitting at the bus stop, and it's that really weird looking thing on top, right? Like who designs that?
I don't know. It has to be only South Beach.
So, but they come to the bus stop. He finds Albert there. He comes up to him, and it's I can cry my eyes out at this scene when they
it's
talk
so
to.
tough.
So he come. By the way, something we haven't talked about is Albert keeps bringing up throughout the movie a palimony agreement, a partnership agreement. This is back in the 90s before laws were, nowadays a
there's
same-sex marriage will be recognized the same as any marriage will
well,
be.
now
But
there's
back
like-
then it's different.
Back then was not.
There was like domestic
not.
partnership laws.
It was not.
Checking the box.
Tommy
Checking
Wiseau
it right there.
box. Woo!
It's not a podcast.
Have we
if
mentioned
don't
Get Out
do the-
yet? No, we haven't.
No.
Okay, we'll get there.
We're about
Well,
to mention.
I'm sorry to bother you, but
Yeah.
Sorry to bother you. We're gonna get there too.
Well, back then there wasn't. Now there's this thing called common law relationships, which you don't have to be married, but if you're together for a certain amount of years, if you split up, you're entitled to a certain amount of your partner's commodity. It's kind of like a loose divorce, so you can't just split up with people if you've been together for so many years.
like common law marriage.
Common law marriage, yeah, and that wasn't exist in the '90s. So this palimony agreement, which no one really talked about then or now. You said Armand is bringing that up.
No, Albert had been bringing it up throughout the movie. They'd been talking about a palimony agreement. Because the thing is, Armand is the one who owns the club. He runs the club. Albert is the main performer who keeps the club packed. But Armand is the one who technically owns all the assets legally. So they were split up. Armand is obviously the one who'd keep everything. Albert would still be a performer. He could still go and perform, but like he would not have any of the assets. So they've been talking about a palimony agreement in case something had happened to them. But that's just to set up the scene. When they come together, Armand sits next to Albert, and because Albert's heading to Los Scopos, a cemetery, so he can die of heartbreak. Because that's very
with his
Albert.
toothbrush.
Because that's very Albert. That is just his character. And Armand says, I'm going to paraphrase. He's like, Los Scopos. It's a total shit pile. There's nothing there but a cemetery. Now, my grave is in Key Biscayne. Beautiful beaches, beautiful water. And he's like, he's like, you know what? This is still Armand talking. He's like, you know what? People do laugh at you, and you are middle-aged, and you are he used a very derogatory term for homosexual people, and he's like, you're a blank. And he's like, but you know what? That's why I've loved you all this time. And he's like, you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to sell my plot in Key Biscayne and get one in Los Scopos and shitty Los Scopos next to you so I'd never miss a laugh. And then he hands him the palimony agreement.
Yep.
And Albert's like, what is this? He's like, it's the palimony agreement. And he's like, what does it matter if I tell you you can't stay or you tell me I can't stay? The only reason that place is home is because that's where you are. So sign the paper.
Oh man,
I know,
Yeah.
right? Like I love
Yeah.
your
You sold
65%
that
description
man.
of it
You
was so
sold that.
powerful.
I
just
know.
now.
I mean, that just tells the power of the scene. This
Yes.
scene
And
is so good.
And Armand gives him
I need a minute.
yeah, right.
the palimony agreement. Gives Albert the club. Right? He has the club.
Yeah,
now.
it's. Oh, and by the way, it's not just a halvesy. He gives him all of the club.
all the club, which is named the Birdcage. That's the, name
The
of the movie.
Birdcage.
That's why the movie's named the Birdcage.
So, and I mean,
It's actually fun fact because it was
Are you gonna pronounce it?
based. I'm gonna try.
I'm gonna enjoy
luck.
this.
It was
Good luck.
it's based on
I wouldn't do this.
the play written by John Perrault.
Which sounds so French. That sounds like such
Jean Perrault.
Jean Perrault. Jean Perrault.
it's brave.
I know.
Is he a Parisian Jean Perrault?
I believe it's
What's the
pronounced
Highlander?
John Barrett.
Everyone knows that's Jimmy Barrett.
Oh my God, you guys.
Are you gonna pronounce this or not? I want to hear you try.
La Cage aux Folles.
I'll believe it. I'll buy it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. That sounds good to me.
What build up for that? Oh, but anyways, moving into the third act.
Which
Oh, the third act.
We thought the movie couldn't get better. It's about to blow your mind.
And just, holy shit, it just all culminates.
I am so excited for the third act. I love this third act so much that I treat it like I treat the Fellowship of the Rings. Now, little backstory. A few weeks ago, I was at a friend's house, and they were like, we started watching the Fellowship of the Ring. Do you want to watch it? And we all agreed, yes, but, asterisk, only if we start the movie at the Council of Elrond, where all the main characters get together and go off on their quest. Which, I argue, is a decent movie in itself.
Sure, but where's this going, Sanders?
The third act of this movie could be its own movie.
It's
It's that powerful.
it's so good.
It's
It is.
fantastic.
It's a very strong third act.
Oh my god. It's like the Chris Nolan idea of starting the movie towards the end of the movie.
Because what's going on is
Yeah.
they're wrapping up the renovations to straight wash
It's
the
very
apartment.
religious up in there now.
Yeah, well, they have to do a full-on straight wash and Catholic wash of the apartment,
Yeah, yeah.
and they do both by putting just a giant ass wooden crucifix.
Yeah, crucifix and long dark drapes. And that's kind of in like a table and chairs to sit at. That's it.
Oh, and also these books, they threw them in.
This is the Nancy Drew.
Oh, that's
Nancy Drew.
That's what they are.
Nancy
have
Drew
the whole set.
The whole set
whole
of
set of
Nancy
Nan-
Drew.
Oh
The
yes,
only books in the
they're
whole
his
apartment.
mother's.
By the way, one of the another really great throwaway line gag is Armand and Val, the father and son, are like redecorating, and they're like so stressed out about what's about to happen. And Armand looks around, and he's like, "So, this is what hell looks like." And there's a crucifix in it.
I love that.
Oh, just so many, so many.
There's
of
so many
those.
good lines. All right. So the Keeleys are coming. And by the way,
There's this thing where for a second Albert tries to pass off himself as the uncle. You see Albert in a suit.
He walks out
Oh,
and he gives
yes.
he
He
gives
walks-
it his best straight pass.
He takes
and here's
his
the
time.
thing, like Nathan Lane has played straight men lots in his career. He
Yeah.
can play a straight man just
Yeah.
fine.
He's a fantastic
The way
actor.
that he plays a gay man playing a straight man who doesn't really know how to play a straight man
It's unbelievable.
fucking fantastic.
It's the best thing. You ever like hear stories about Mel Blanc playing Daffy Duck trying to be Bugs Bunny in a scene?
Yeah.
That's what that feels like.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
like that.
It's a
That's
duck
exactly
season, rabbit
what that
season
is.
situation.
It's like that, and he plays it so well.
It's really god, so good.
But the big but is that he actually is actually doing a pretty decent job, even if he does look suspicious,
He
like
is
he's up to
passing.
something. He's passing for straight.
Yes.
And then he goes and he takes a seat and he crosses his leg, and when he does that, his pants right up a little bit,
And the sock.
exposing bright neon pink socks.
And he says, "Well, one must have a touch of color."
He says that exactly. One
One
must have a touch of color.
And then Armand and Val kind of roll their eyes, and he goes, "I understand because I'm trying to hide. I actually stick out more."
And it's a powerful line.
Ooh, it's rough.
It's
and I
rough.
paraphrased.
Yeah, he said because you're right.
Yeah.
He says something to the effect of because I'm trying to hide who I am, I'm even more obvious than before. And it's sad. And by the way, Robin Williams and the character who plays Val, they just have kind of the scene constantly cuts back and forth between looking at Albert trying to walk and their reaction. They basically have the kind of same expression on their face the whole time, which is like, this isn't gonna work.
This isn't gonna
This
happen.
isn't gonna happen.
Damn.
You know, they're just that kind of like discipline, and that's why the scene's powerful because when he looks at him, he's like, I can see it on your faces. You know.
Yeah.
And this time, just like at the beginning of the movie, Albert just hysterically just locks himself in a room. But this time,
Armand's rolling with it.
he's completely justified in doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I
He's,
mean,
yeah.
he's not
had
he's
one of the
not
shittiest
freaking
days
out over
ever,
nothing.
You know,
It's a great insight into the movie when we go from one meltdown to another, and by the second meltdown, we're totally on board.
You're on his side.
You're like, yeah,
definitely.
I get it, and that's why Albert is one of the best characters.
This
in all of
movie's like
cinema.
multiple circles.
I've
running
said
around
it
each
before.
other,
I'll say it again.
integrating.
Nathan Lane's performance in this movie is a national treasure.
Shut up, Kennedy. You're drunk.
Why can't we get Ted in here? It's always the
I'm
younger
just
ones.
looking for a meal pass.
I'll give you coffee, but that's it.
So, yeah, he's locked in a room, and the Keeleys finally show up.
Oh man. Okay, so the Keeley
can't
show.
even handle
Oh god. Oh, can we?
And the shenanigans begin.
And it's right about this moment that we hear, "Baby, I hear the blues are calling, toss salads and scrambled
It does
eggs."
play like a really good Frasier episode. There's a lot of like crossing around and like, dear God, Niles, and then just absurd things happening. Agador Spartacus has found a suit.
This is where we first hear him referred to as Spartacus.
Spartacus.
Oh yeah, this
For
is when he
the
goes-
purpose of, I
he's
don't know.
Greek. And he has to wear a suit.
Spartacus.
So, of course, Spartacus. That's your name, not Agador.
He slicks his hair back, and he's forced to wear shoes, which Agador Spartacus never wears shoes. So he
wears pumps.
He wears pumps or nothing at all. He's
Or no,
he's-
yeah, no
he's
shoes
barefoot.
or yeah.
So him wearing shoes is like wearing like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I'm staring at like a tiny little filing cabinet with removable drawers. I imagine that Agador Spartacus is walking in these shoes like I would with these like removable drawers.
Like
I
if
don't
you
know,
were wearing Kleenex
Salient
boxes.
yeah, exactly.
observation.
Yeah. But like someone put rocks at the front of the Kleenex boxes, so like the front part is heavy. It's weird. He's struggling.
This is also funny because, like, I think between these scenes, I've never seen Agador with so little clothing.
Also,
And you
He
see him with very little clothing.
He's barely speaking.
He's got a great body, and we see his backside.
No,
And,
it's
and his
Hank
butt.
Azaria at like peak '90s Hank Azaria.
And he's
He's got that
beautiful.
Hank ass, man.
He's beautiful. He's like beautifully tanned. His
Not
body
to be
is like
confused with
fabulous.
70s ass.
And then the next scene we see is Agador Spartacus with this oversized suit and these shoes that are like 3 times big for his shoes, and he
He's the
falls
worst.
over them
He's the
all
worst
the time.
butler ever in this situation. And so the Keeleys get
Excellent
there.
chef, but his service skills are not quite up to par.
So the Keeleys get there, and they go to the apartment above the club, and they see where the sign says Goldman. Like, I'm sorry, I thought you said your name was Coleman, right?
Oh no, it's Goldman.
It's Coleman.
The D is silent.
Yes. So they're trying to basically be like, hey, we're not as Jewish
We're not
as you
Jewish.
may think.
We're just only kind of Jewish. You're the right kind of Jewish.
Or I don't know. It's like a whole like we're just gonna assume that the Keeleys are the waspy people in the world, so we have to save them from their own thoughts.
Yeah.
It's really messed up.
Just like it's like they had a plan for all of these things, but every single one of them falls apart as it's happening.
And it's a bunch of tiny little bad plans,
Yeah,
all
it-
messing up at one time.
Like all these little tiny lies, but none of them go according to plan.
And I do want to tap into, I think Chad just brought up a point that I think is amazing. I've never thought about. Everything in the third act is about pandering to the Keeleys' views and making sure
Yep.
that they are not triggered at any point in the night. It's all about keeping them comfortable and in their zone where they will be receptive to the idea of the marriage and all that stuff. And it is, man, that's a brilliant point. They're just trying to pander to them at every step of the way.
and the Keeleys are doing the same thing because they're politicians.
And they're also, this is another point, they're paranoid because they don't know the situation at the Birdcage. They're paranoid that Val's parents are going to look down on them because of the scandal
That's right.
with
Oh,
Senator Jackson.
They think this is they're worried about getting found out about this being an out of their political scandal. They have no idea that
Yeah, they
They're
want
try-
this
they're-
to go
both
well.
parties-
too.
think
passively
they're
it's a
hiding
worse
something.
scandal for them if they treat it as a scandal. And they have no idea what's about to happen. Their priorities are all out of whack.
Plus, they've been on a long road trip.
From
very draining.
Ohio down to South Florida is like
oh my God.
Oh, yeah, I
18
mean,
hours. I don't know.
They came from up north where it was cold.
Old.
Oh my God. So,
let's
Chad,
get to
I
that.
want to
Let's
hear
get
this from Chad for some reason.
Yeah.
Tell us about and I'm using air quotes now, story
Yeah.
that
It's.
Senator Keeley tells.
I would not call it a story because stories are interesting.
I mean, just
Something
but
happens in them. But
disclaimer, it is very anti-Superman. So
So during the scene, Senator Keeley makes an attempt, let's call it, to have a conversation. He tries.
Yeah, like a
And-
person.
Like a person. And he's struggling to person. And so it's something along the lines of see, the leaves change, different colors. It's interesting to come from the north.
We've already lost Asher.
I mean, just listen to this fucking
I know, it's
dialogue.
He's dead. Move on.
It's interesting to come from the north, where it's cold, to down south, where it's warm. The most boring conversation ever is being held in the home of two men who are nothing but fantastical, theatrical flair. Armand is in hell. There's not only a crucifix, but a senator from Ohio.
And I feel like Robin Williams and Gene Hackman are both having such a great time in this scene.
You know, it's one of those things where they had to calm down
Yeah.
to shoot it to be that sad and boring.
And another layer on this scene is that Agator and Val are constantly dropping
Spartacus.
stuff in the background. So while he's telling this boring story, you're always hearing like bang and like
Clang, clang,
Val will,
bang.
like run. Oh wait, no. And the mom calls
Oh,
and
yeah,
leaves
the-
a message on the answering
Saying
machine
that she
while
was
the
behind.
story is happening.
Oh,
saying
yeah.
she's running late.
This is the
And
biological
this
mother.
is
Biological
this is
mother.
before that reveal happens. They're still just trying to entertain with champagne and everything while Agador throws together something in the kitchen.
Which is
God
kind of
knows what.
Kind of a soup, but there's bugs
Do
in
you
it.
do you
It's
do you
not really
cook?
food?
Do you
And there's
cook?
eggs.
It's like a liquid
Do
with
you
stuff in
do
it.
you know how to cook? Your father
Thinks-
seems to think so.
Yeah.
Your father
So they do
thinks
that. So they try right before dinner. There's a knock on the door, and someone walks through the door, and it is Albert in drag. Not only drag, Barbara Bush drag.
Yep, it's very like
The pantsuit skirts and the weird ass wig.
Because if you got to play to a senator,
You dress like Barbara Bush, and he owns the character of Barbara Bush mom.
and just charms the pants off of Gene
And
Hackman.
it works so much. And Gene Hackman's kind of infatuated. He is smitten.
He
Yeah.
is smitten.
He is smitten by Albert, the mom.
Well, a brilliant thing that the movie does is when he first walks down, the shot is on Armand and Val and the girl. who's
Everyone's
married. I
reacting.
can't- No, but it's specifically the people that would know Albert is a man first.
Ironically, the
Yeah.
So-
fiance's name is Barbara.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. Okay, so anyhow, so what it shows their
Most white-ass name.
facial reactions, and they're obviously very worried because they're like, oh my god, Albert's coming down in drag. We're all going to be found out now. But then when because it literally shows the people who know, I think this is very clever filmmaking. It shows the people who know Albert is a man first, their reaction, and then it shows you Senator Keeley and his wife, who are clearly like, "Oh, here's
Yeah,
this wonderful
it's a woman.
Here's this wonderful woman coming over to welcome us to her home. We should be nice and polite." And
Oh,
as you
hello,
say,
dear. How are you? Give me a hug. Oh, she's shy.
Did you see
That's
how?
so wonderful. Oh,
Did you see
It's
how
quite an opening. It's
they
quite an
almost
entrance she
cried?
makes.
Like she almost cried when they called her mother.
Now, the first
Yeah.
time I saw this scene, and by the way, this is one of the few movies I'm not the first person. I don't. Who was the one who had not seen the Birdcage?
Was it Grace?
Was it Grace?
I've seen it a lot.
yeah, because I had definitely seen
Okay,
it.
so we had Grace on this one, but I was like, I had definitely seen this movie before. I remember the first time I saw Nathan Lane walk down in this scene in drag. You just lose it, man, because
Yeah.
you were just
Just
like,
like, oh,
you're
God.
like, he's doing this.
No
what? What?
How many left
What?
turns are we gonna take?
The movie's been pretty ridiculous so far, and then when that happens, you're like, all right, you're
doing-
either
we're
on
going
board or
with
you're
it.
walking out the door.
We're
And
going with
you
it.
feel this way because Nathan Lane gets so much crap for this whole movie, and he's just like, you know what? I'm gonna do it my way now.
And it works.
And,
does.
And
He
you
does
love
it his
You
way.
love it him for it.
But he,
At the end,
but-
you can
but
always
it-
say,
but
no matter
it
what,
works.
he did it his way.
Oh my God! No, but it works. He wins over the senator almost immediately.
Yeah, and the senator's wife is very. She likes him.
Sure. I mean,
At
like
first.
I mean, like
At
they
first.
they do have to get to the point. They do have to get through the bowl situation.
Oh my God, the bowls they bring out.
Oh, the bowls, the soup.
Where they're playing
Go
leapfrog.
get my glasses from my purse, darling. Oh, I couldn't find your glasses, mother. Well, I have mine right here. Soup is served.
So they hand these bowls, and apparently these bowls that like while they were cleaning out the apartment, they weren't worried about the
Well,
bowls.
they glorify a certain activity.
That's one way to put it.
Sodomy.
I'm trying to be diplomatic.
We're talking about
Much like the cultural attaché degrees.
Yeah, what you said.
Yes, words.
We're talking about people just making love with each other who are both male, and that's what these bowls show.
And they're on bowls, and
Oh, but there are girls. I mean, I have a couple of girls. Don't you have a girl?
Don't you have a couple of girls? I think that's right. Is that a girl? And
how
then
about
this-
some soup?
And this
You
is
must-
Gene
Our monkey's
Wilder
pouring
says,
soup.
"Hey, I might not have
Gene
my
Wilder. Gene
Oh, damn
Hackman.
it!
Wait,
Oh,
Gene
you must have.
Hackman?
He
It's
says.
too
He
late now.
says.
You know what?
He says,
Though-
hey, I've got a solution.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. I feel like Gene Wilder could have been in this movie.
Yeah, that's why I should be docked
this type of
points for
movie.
that.
It's
so
really- yeah.
Gene Hackman says this to her.
No,
He's
you
like,
lose 2
hey,
credits.
I might. Oh, come on!
Asher Kelly, you have lost 2 credits.
I
for
backed
instance.
you on you getting a credit earlier.
All right, fine. I'll give you 1 credit back.
Okay, thank you. All right. So anyhow, but Gene Hackman says I might not have glasses, but I know that's a man.
Don't you mean?
No, he says.
glasses. I know that's a man.
No, he says. Well, it's been a while since you've seen one because that's
yeah.
definitely a boy.
That's right. That's right.
If you think that's a woman, it's been a while since you've seen one.
But they're just so about it, while the Goldmans are just
Stressed.
freaking stressed. They're freaking out the whole
The
time.
Goldmans.
They're freaked out about Albert being too much because Albert is on the verge of being too much the whole time and just barely playing it off.
This gets to another part of the movie when the mom. See, here's what's been going on. So the Armand had contacted the biological mom and left a voicemail saying, "Don't come to the dinner tonight."
Yeah, there's a breakdown in communication. So
But
the biological
Val
mom
doesn't like this because
Yeah.
Val wants.
I don't
'cause
think Val
Val's-
knows.
No, because no. Armand told Val, "I asked your mother not to come. Albert is gonna be your uncle. Like it's gonna be fine. Like and then Val doesn't like this. So,
That's right.
no. This is what happened. Sorry, I got the events wrong. After things go well with Albert playing the mom, Armand kind of voices
better
in an
than
undertone.
expected.
Armand, in an undertone, tells Val, put a note on the door for your mom. Basically saying, put a note on the door so your biological mom doesn't come
That's
in
right.
and blow our cover.
And-
Val does it. He
does it.
does go out and do it, but the National Enquirer reporters
Those
find
bastards.
the notes. They find the note on the gate that says,
Tom
hey,
McGowan.
hey, we don't need you anymore. Please don't come inside. And they take the note off and they say, this is going to be funny. And it is. They take the note off the door.
Well, scrambled eggs all over your face. What's the boy to do?
Exactly. So it's set up for the scene so you know the mom is going to walk in. They have the soup. There's no entree because Agator made the soup as an entree.
And that was it.
You know,
He didn't
like
make an
soup.
entree.
And he never got to put the shrimp
It's
in.
peasant soup. It's more like a stew. The shrimps.
I also have to say, my only complaint about this movie is you had a kitchen in the club. That's the only.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Like they could have made anything.
Yeah, they could have.
And they made Spartacus.
Oh, we
do
found a
all the
hole
work.
in the plot.
Yeah, that's
Oh, no,
that's,
a plot.
that's the only.
They could have served steamed ham.
That's the only flaw that I found.
Steamed ham.
Aurora Borealis. Sorry, okay, we cannot do this. All right.
Oh man,
so-
we're not gonna do it. Okay, fine.
Okay, no, we got to finish the Birdcage.
That's
so,
fair.
They're at peak Birdcage.
Seymour, the house is on fire.
That's
The
just
house
normal
is,
lights, mother.
is literally on fire right
We
now.
have to stop doing the steamed hams bit. We have a job
We
to do.
have to admit that we have a problem.
Yeah, we have.
All right, so the
We have
Birdcage.
biditis.
It's that patented Skinner family recipe. So the Birdcage.
So they're at peak Birdcage right
Peak
now.
Birdcage.
They really are. They're all in there together. And what really throws things off is that at some point, Albert moves his head into kind of a jerky motion and messes up his wig.
Oh my, yes.
And that's what sets off, like,
my man.
literally, Val, Barbara, and
Armand.
Armand all grab Albert and literally shove him out a door at one of the most awkward scenes in all of cinema.
Leaving Mother
I'm
and
touched.
Mr. Keeley freaking out.
I am just so touched. My family, my men.
My Ben.
Coming to take care of me. It's so lovely. And what's so funny is that when they leave, Mrs. Keeley is like, I feel like something is wrong. And Senator Keeley's like, I know exactly what's wrong.
Gets up, makes a drink.
It's the scandal with Senator Jackson. They're freaked out about marrying us because we have a tinged name because they have no idea what's actually going on.
If anything,
And then he goes on and he's just like, and you know what else? I don't like the way that he treats her.
full circle. Albert blamed Armand for possibly cheating on him, which was bullshit. And now Senator Keeling's doing the same thing to Armand about Mother Coleman.
She is an intelligent and passionate woman.
Did you see when they called her mother? She practically cried, for God's sake.
She practically cried.
It's
And
ridiculous.
did you see Armand's face when she was talking? He looked petrified, like she might say something.
And then that's at the point when
Oh, it's just
Val's-
it's full birdcage at this
full
point.
birdcage. It's full tilt birdcage.
It's the bird at its most cage.
At this point, Val's biological mother knocks on the door, saying, I forgot my key. She's playing her role. She didn't get the note because the National Enquirer people took it. So thus, Val's biological mother has showed up to play Val's
And
mom.
this is after she was caught in traffic on the bridge because of sailboat.
Because it's Miami.
Listen, this movie has to take time out for boats. You just got to accept it and let it happen. And if you don't like that,
that is
then
how
you
the
hate
roads
boats.
are.
Honestly,
they
it makes
do
the
lift up
movie-
there and they make traffic jams.
It's honestly more just more true to real life. I mean, like it's what real life is like. You have to take time out for sailboats.
Yeah.
So anyhow, she
Yeah.
shows up,
You say that like you're being sarcastic, but
and
you make a good point.
they're all in the mix together.
And I say the jig is up.
Well, yeah,
at this
because
point, yes.
because
Well, one would think.
They
so
give it the old college try to make it work, but
Senator Keeley straight up looks at Armand and says, "Hey, we're confused. This woman says she's Val's mother, but you guys are over there with Albert. So what's going on?" And this is when Val, who finally stops becoming a little piece of crap and steps up to the plate.
it is his moment of salvation.
His moment of salvation.
God.
He takes the wig off of Albert and says, "This is my mother. This is the woman who raised me.
This is my family.
This is
My
my
family
family."
this is my biological mother. She's a nice lady.
We are family.
We are family.
I got all my sisters with me.
Armand and Albert raised me. These are two men. And then they pause. Senator Keeley says, I don't get it. And then his
He's
daughter's
like in
he does it,
denial.
and then he doesn't get it. And they say, and
Well-
then his wife's like, it's two men. And then his daughter's like, by the way.
Well,
No, hold on. His wife says, Senator, I don't know his first name. His wife says, Senator, they're two men. And then there's a pause. And his daughter says, Daddy, they're Jewish. It's this like underlying thread of anti-Semitism. It's messed up.
like on top of the homophobia.
Yeah, on top of the homophobia.
Well,
You have to sprinkle it on.
all I
Yeah.
can say is that if he doesn't get it, it's probably because he hasn't seen the most recent "It's Always Sunny" finale.
Oh, the one where Mac has a dance off.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Mac. I mean, Mac has a dance partner who's a woman, but I feel like Mac is dancing with Mac in that scene.
Well, he's dancing with God in that scene, but
Wow.
that's a whole nother
Wow, that's
conversation.
a whole nother podcast. We should talk about that.
Yep, gonna
Whoa.
put a.
But we're going to finish the
put a
bird
pause
cage
on that
first.
conversation.
Put a pin in that.
So coming soon. Anyhow, so they get together, and here's another sad part of the movie. Senator Keeley and his wife basically look at his daughter Barbara and said, "We can't accept this. We're in the middle of a scandal. I'm up for re-election. Are you insane? You're gonna get married to the son of like two prominent homosexual members of the South Beach community. Are you insane? I'm sorry, we can't do this." And one of the tragedies is Barbara actually kind of now she is 18, but she sides with her parents.
She makes a brief stand though.
She-
She's like, "Dad, I'm not going."
Yeah.
In film, on the screen wise, she's standing with Armand.
She is.
She's on that side of the
She
room.
is.
Yeah.
But
she's on that side.
then
And
Gene
Albert.
Hackman, Senator Keeley, he makes a point. It's just like, Jesus, like there's already been all of this. Like, how many lives do you need to ruin? Like, I
he
want to
says
see you
that.
get, I
Oh
want
my
to see you
God,
get married, but how many lives do you have to ruin to do it?
Yeah, and that kind of gets her.
And it's only really
Well,
her parents.
There's also that scene with Albert where once the
It's
wig
a really
is off,
cold line, by the way.
It is
Really
cold, but Albert,
He's cold.
when Albert's wig is off, he goes over there and goes, Senator, I want you to know, I agreed with you and everything you said about family values.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing's changed.
That's what he says. Nothing
Except
has
for
changed.
I meant everything I said.
Nothing has
I agree
changed.
with you, and I believe we have this common ground. Let's build upon this.
No, and this is what
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's this great moment where Armand is playing the piano and he's singing with Diane Weist, and while they're doing that, Gene Hackman is dancing with Nathan Lane as the mother, and
Mother
like they're having
Coleman.
like a great moment. And
singing. I could have danced all night.
yep, just and that's real important because they mirror that in a little while.
And
It's just so
Agator,
good.
by the way, one of the
Yeah.
best scenes in the movie, Sam mentioned this earlier, while they're dancing, Agator throws open some doors, bursts through, and just starts singing.
Yep.
You know, the song I Could Have Danced All Night. Da 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 da. I could have danced all day.
So that's what-
And it's like the ridiculous level of the movie has been raising like progressively, and in this moment in this scene, the movie just throws it all out the door
Yeah.
right whenever Hank Azaria bursts through those doors.
It was worth it.
It's just like,
Worth
yep,
it.
we're going for it.
It's truly his moment right there.
So that's basically when the Keeleys decide we can't have this. We're getting in the car. We're going home. And when they open the door, the National Enquirer
And
reporter
all the press, because
the press, they're all standing there.
And right before he opens the door, that's whenever he delivers that line. He's just like,
yeah.
Mr. Goldman, I hope that all this doesn't, affect your vote.
It's so fucked
Ugh,
up.
that line, yeah,
Such
it's
a
all about
politician.
him.
So he goes to leave, but as soon as he opens the door, the guy's like, Senator Keeley, and he closes the door. So he realizes he is trapped.
Sorry,
I was trying to get him to turn.
Sorry, throwaway gag alert. One
was a
of the
throwaway
best
gag.
one of many awesome throwaway gags is that when Albert walks up to Senator Keeley and says, "Hey, everything I said to you earlier about family values was true. I'm still me, except for one tiny difference." Well, not so tiny.
Not that.
Come on.
You catty bitch.
Yeah, down, come on. And say Nathan Lane, he's a master, man. He's a
He's
master.
great.
of the
I loved
craft.
it.
So to continue, Senator Keeley realizes he's trapped.
He has a headache. He sits there, and he has like a scotch glass in his hand, and Agator Spartacus comes by and pours it. And he goes, I usually don't drink this much. And this is one of the few lines Spartacus has once the Keeleys got there. And he goes, well, now's a good time to pretend. But he doesn't that Agador line.
Well, now's a good time to pretend, sweetie.
Because Agador hasn't been allowed to speak
Yeah.
for this.
he's been
Well,
talking in some
It's too much.
fake accent.
Yeah, because he's trying not to.
Agator Spartacus. He's
My
trying to
name is
be-
Spartacus.
He's trying to be a straight man, and it's not him. And it's
no,
ridiculous.
well, what happens is he's introduced as Spartacus, and then Robin Williams, Armand, he just like out of impulse, he corrects him on something. He's like Agador, and then Val has to step in and say Spartacus, Agador Spartacus. He's like, oh yes, he insists on being called by his full name.
So basically, the Keeleys are trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to formulate this plan. It doesn't make any sense. And then somebody who comes up with a plan to take him to the club.
No, it's of course. I'm pretty sure it's Albert.
Albert comes
Albert
out
is
here.
of course
Albert
the
saves
one.
the day.
No,
Because-
this is why. Because Senator Keeley says, "Oh, it's no use.
I have to leave
I have to
sometime."
leave sometime, and they're gonna recognize me the minute I leave, and it's gonna be all over the papers." And
They're
that's
gonna
when
they're
Albert,
gonna be wondering if I never show up again.
yeah, and that's when Albert gets the idea.
At the end,
And well, I think it's Val who says, wait, like he can just leave with everybody at the end of the night. It's like, oh, that's what they're waiting for. And then Albert steps forward and says, well, not necessarily.
so basically, at the end of the drag show, all the talent goes down and goes to the crowd, and there's always these like
Well, they do a big "We Are
Well,
Family"
family
number to
number.
close out the show.
and then they walk out. All these ladies will walk out the door.
And while they're doing that, they have a whole bunch more
people.
like
So
flood the stage.
The idea is to dress the Keeleys up like drag queens,
and they did,
and they did.
including
Gene Hackman with
Hackman.
the biggest wig I've ever seen in my life,
And they double down.
and they double down.
They double
hard.
down so hard.
They're
so hard.
committed.
So the Keeleys, all three of them, are dressed like drag queens to sneak them to their to a car.
Well, before
right?
that, there's so much good stuff that happens
it's
in the
so
club
good.
before they get to the car.
Oh,
Like,
the scene when they walk through the club is
like
pure gold.
he's over at the bar and he's like complaining. He's just like, well, why hasn't anybody approached me? Like I kind of feel like
Don't leave
maybe-
a lady alone. She deserves to be danced with.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, I'm sorry. I believe it sounds more like, well, don't leave a lady alone. She deserves to be danced with.
You know.
Okay, are we just doing impressions now?
No,
okay,
no,
fine.
no.
Okay.
Don't make me. Yeah.
No, that's it. That's it for that.
That's it for that.
I think it's so funny that Senator Keeley is also like, I didn't want to be dressed in white. Like, I told him it makes me look fat. And
worried
he's,
about
Yeah.
looking
he's
fat
like,
It's like,
in a
yeah.
white dress.
Callista Flockhart's
It's such a
like
good moment.
upset that drag queens look better than her. She has this line about like I look better than them, don't I? Blah blah blah. As they're walking out of the club.
and what does he say? He
Very superficial.
said, I don't want to be the only girl not. Or
Oh
dancing
yeah,
alone."
this Val and the daughter leave him, and he's like, "I don't want to be the only girl not dancing on the dance floor." This is Senator Keeley.
Senator
saying that,
Keeley.
dressed in drag. I don't want to be the only girl not dancing with someone on the dance.
He's
floor.
doubling down
Doubling. It's a time to
I
double
would
down,
say-
man. It's the
like
last
a
10
like a
minutes of the movie.
politician in the 90s.
I would say this is like a triple down.
It's just
Almost a
down. Can we just
tripling
agree it's
down.
down? Hard.
It's
Down hard.
It's a
Yep.
hard down.
Fully committed.
I'll agree to anything if it just moves the
110%.
conversation forward at this point.
So they get out. The Keeleys are just like drag queens. The Goldmans help them to a getaway car, which Val's mom has, and they're going to jump in. And
well,
sh-
as they're
right?
on the way out,
as they're on the
though,
way out.
they run into Starlina, but
Mm-hmm.
he's dressed in a suit.
Yeah, totally.
It's Albert. In
All
a
the
suit.
Goldmans are wearing like tuxes.
and that's whenever that's right around the time that Gene Hackman's talking about not wanting to be the
Yeah.
only girl.
So Gene Hackman dances out with
mirroring the scene
the scene
earlier.
earlier. Yeah. Oh, it's really good.
We are family. Yeah,
This
the
movie
song
gets
playing.
it.
No,
This movie gets how to tell a
It's,
story.
it's mirroring the scene where because Gene Hackman in a suit is dancing with Albert as the mom.
It's Mrs. Gold. Mrs.
That's
Coleman.
But
right.
now
I never
the
got
roles are
that.
reversed.
Oh god,
Yeah.
this movie's so good.
It sandwiches. There's a lot of reversals and there's a lot of stuff like bookended. So as they're walking out, there's a getaway car played by Val, Christine. What's her name? Val's biological mom's like, "I'll get you out of here." But it's pulled right up next to the senator's car. He looks at his driver, goes, "Meet me at the corner of Chase and Third."
in
And
30 minutes.
In
Like,
30 minutes, and his driver's like,
not
"Lady,
for $1 million.
not for $1 million dollars." And they take off, and credits roll.
Yep,
That's the movie. And credits roll over the scene of the marriage between Val and baby Keeley. I forgot her name.
Barbara.
Sorry. Barbara Keeley. So that's the movie. And then they cut this. I mean, there's credits rolls because they got to get to the point.
You missed the best Bob Dole joke of the movie.
No. I'm getting to it.
Okay,
Um,
better.
There are cuts back and forth between both sides of the aisle. It's very
Which one's
obvious.
the mother?
It's very obvious. Like on the bride's side, two old ladies who look like their husbands did things. Said, which one's the mother in reference to the groom's side, and then on the
I can't
groom's
tell.
I can't tell, and then on the groom's side, there's two drag queens sitting there, and it's a wedding between the South Beach community and a lot of it's a small crowd, but it's
The
like
hoity-toity kind of.
it's like conservative family politicians all on the bride's side. So there's two drag queens sitting there, and one drag queen looks at the front, looks at the back, and looks at her friend and says, "Bob Dole is gorgeous," which to me is the funniest joke in the whole movie.
I mean,
That
that
is
is
good.
so good. That joke is so good.
That is so perfect.
I do think it's worth noting that at this wedding ceremony, there is both a Catholic priest and a rabbi.
That's right. They do both. They have a Catholic priest, and the Catholic priest finish, and then at the end, the rabbi says, "I believe that it's a shot of the two of them, right? Like standing next to each other."
I believe he says gefilte fish.
Gefilte fish. It's yeah.
By the way, we
It says
didn't
Mazel
mention.
Tov, you schmuck.
We did. He does say Mazel Tov, but we didn't mention how earlier in the movie, when Senator Keeley is trying to figure out how
We
to
did.
plan.
No. We mentioned that. They said the Pope, right?
No, we mentioned that not on Mike and I while we're recording. So
Okay.
I'm bringing it up now. I'm bringing it up
We've been talking
now.
about this movie all night, so we can't remember what we said off mic and on mic.
So I'm bringing it up now. So one of the best lines he says is he's trying to figure out like his political scheme to rise to the top, and his wife says, "Well, you get the Pope's blessing. It's not that hard." And he says, "Up, the Pope's too controversial. Maybe Billy Graham. Nope. too liberal.
It's a good thing that the Pope is less controversial these days.
Yep.
Well, Billy Graham's
I
dead.
don't know.
How controversial can
I don't
he
know
be?
if Senator Keeley were here these days, he probably would say the Pope is too controversial. I think.
Well, I think that the next thing that happens in the movie is the rest of the credits.
Yep. If you want to know who worked craft services, it's somebody's nephew.
So
They-
Sam, what did you think of the Birdcage?
Well, I remember watching it as a kid and not getting a lot of the jokes that I get as an adult, but I still really enjoyed it. And now watching it as an adult, it's just a completely new experience. And yeah, man, just love the movie, man. It's so good. It's so good. It's so funny.
When you're younger, you get all you enjoy the bits because it is bit heavy.
It's bit heavy.
It's old school comedy
and
like,
it's big set pieces.
big set pieces. Even though it's few set pieces, it's very approachable in like how it just tells its story.
Well, it's a comedy.
It's comedy, and it fully understands the classic idea of comedy of errors, a lot of character stuff, a lot of bits, just building on it. But what you're saying when you were younger, as opposed to when you're older, when you get older, you get a lot of the subtext.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
lot of that nuance. Like,
Yeah,
you
you
don't
really
get
fully-
that when you're a kid.
Like
but-
we were watching King of the Hill earlier, and we were talking about
Same
how
deal.
it's totally different now that we're 30, as opposed to when we both watched it when we were kids.
Yeah, the first episode I saw as an adult, which was just tonight. I haven't watched King of the Hill since I was a kid. The first episode, which deals with him being assaulted by a dolphin, like I was like, wow, the message and the way they told the message of this episode, I never got as a kid, and it's really hitting me hard now as an adult.
Yeah,
I'm
so
seeing it
imagine
again.
that episode, but 3 of those makes up the Birdcage.
Yeah, like what was that woke line that I said earlier about this movie?
I don't know,
it just
before
Woke up.
woke.
Well, before
yeah, it
woke,
was woke before woke was woke. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just it's
truly ahead of its time.
Seriously.
it's just, but not in a preachy way. It's totally
No, not in a preachy
acceptable
way at all.
and entertaining, and it makes you feel for these characters.
it makes them feel like real people, and I think that's
Exactly.
the biggest thing is that it's just like it humanizes the community.
Not that it needed to be humanized, but I know what you mean. Like coming from like a cinematic standpoint, we all greatly.
Well, no,
watched it.
I just mean like the '90s. Like we have to remember that the '90s what did in fact happen right after the '80s, and the '80s.
Wait, well, hold on, let me check my
Wait,
notes.
whoa, wait. Can
And
we
the-
get a Google
and the-
on that?
I found that. To
Can
be
we get a
correct.
Google?
Yeah.
In the '80s, well, pending research, I do believe that is true. And in the '80s, there was there was the HIV and AIDS scare, and that was like pure like anti-gay is what they were going for with all of that. So like it was still kind of a taboo. Like the gay community was still kind of a taboo. So I do think that the community needed to be humanized then.
Agreed.
Like I do think that was important.
It's really important for the time when it came out. It is somewhat of a product at the time it came out, but it's not a product to the point where it's has the issue of time, like something like
Damn.
time. Like I feel like every movie has an issue of the time it comes out, and this movie transcends that.
Oh yeah.
If I
No,
could-
it's still relevant now.
If I could talk for a second about one of the, this is a very nerdy like observation of this movie, but I think it is a like kind of applauding the way they organize the movie. In the reason I think the third act is so good, it kind of reminds me of a Mozart opera in this sense. All of Mozart operas that are funny, and I'm sorry, I played a lot of classical music. I'm sorry, I have to bring this up right now. All of them that are funny in the last act involve a lot of people who are dressing up as a different gender. There's a lot of mix-ups, a lot of people pretending to be somebody else, a lot of people trying to figure out what the other party is doing, and there's chaos that ensues. And the last act of this movie is exactly like that. Nathan Lane is, of course, being the mother. A lot of people have different agendas. The Keeleys are trying to hide the Jackson scandal. Armand and Albert are trying to not be who they are. They're trying to convince someone else. And hilarity and pandemonium ensues from that scenario.
I love the father-son trade-off of just chugging the booze. There's just like a bottle of scotch in the kitchen, and
That's
they just
right.
they just
They just
trade off
keep- they
down.
It just helps them
trading
get
off.
through it.
And I love the way they use alcohol in this movie. It's always to say something is getting out of control. This is how I'm going to deal with it. Yep. But anyways, I love this movie because it's filled with love.
Fantastic
It's
movie.
amazing.
So, in our final thoughts of this movie, the movie is phenomenal. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like I said at the very beginning of this cast,
So funny from start to finish.
And it's
I
so
loved it.
still
I'll show it to anybody.
relevant. It is still so relevant. I
So
love it.
relevant, beautiful,
Timeless.
fantastic, timeless.
and that's the Birdcage, folks. You should all watch it.
5 birds out of 5 cages.
So, for tonight's movie night autopsy, I hope you've enjoyed our discussion of the Birdcage. Please hit us up on the social medias, all the Instagrams, all the Twitters, all the Facebooks. Please hit us up. I'm Asher,
I'm Chad.
And I'm Sam.
and this has been Movie Night Autopsy.
Smooth.
What's up, crew? If you got any idea of what you would like for us to talk about on the Minute or on Movie Night Autopsy podcast, hit us up on the social medias. You can hit us up on Twitter at movie_autopsy. Check us out on Facebook at Movie Night Autopsy. Always feel free to email us, contact@movienightautopsy.com.